If it were a day like any other, getting released from a lengthy meeting should have put Ban Yasuji in a good mood. However, today was not a normal day. The detective removed himself from his peers, moved to the nearest window, and attempted irritably to call his junior. Suwa, his partner, had not shown up to today's meeting. I get wanting to play hooky on this, but did you really have to leave me to go it alone? Darn kid, Ban thought to himself. At first glance, Suwa may have appeared lighthearted, but in actuality, he was quite the diligent man and took his job very seriously. With this being Ban's opinion of him, what happened today was quite the shock. He had attempted to call him several times, but it always went to voicemail. Ever since he had heard a fairly unsettling story from almost 2 days prior, Ban had been faced with a constant feeling of uneasiness. And today, only more troubles had been added to the pile. There was an incident with Suwa, but that was not all. When Ban was reporting about GE raid earlier this morning, he was immediately shot down by Matsunaga. Matsunaga? We don't have time for crackpot theories, his superior said. Could you not add it to the pile, kid? I've had enough for 1 week. Ban waved his fan in his face repeatedly and let out a small sigh. And right when he did, the call connected, and he heard the voice of his junior on the other end. Sir, it's you. There you are, you schmuck. Where the hell have you been? The reception was extremely poor. Which part of the countryside did Suwa lose himself in? Ban thought, scratching his head. So, I'm suspects my way, you know? Huh? What are you saying? Where are you? As Ban shouted into the receiver, Sua's voice disappeared on the other end, replaced by a continuous rustling sound. How about now? Can you hear me? Yeah, I can. So where the hell did you... Well, I thought I'd do things my way for a bit, so I went and asked around. Uppity little. The way Suwa acted on his own without getting permission was not something that was worthy of praise. However, Ban could not help but smile wryly to himself, as he, too, was taking unauthorized actions even now. He considered that perhaps he was a bad influence on his junior. I might be getting close to getting my hands on a clue. It'll be conclusive evidence as to who's the real New Gen culprit. What? The color in Ban's eyes shifted. Keep that top secret, though. I might be mistaken. It doesn't matter. Just get your rear back here right now, you hear me? No, I've got to dig some more. What? You talking back? Ease up, I've got... Suwa! Oh. Right at that moment, the area below Ban's feet began to shake. An earthquake? The shaking gradually increased in intensity. It was hard to even stand up straight. Unable to maintain his balance for any longer, Ben got down low to the floor. It's a big one. The other detectives, who at first seemed to be underestimating the seriousness of the situation, all quickly moved under their tables. The clock fixed to the wall, the paper cups and pens atop the tables, the projection equipment, they all crashed to the floor one by one. The two whiteboards standing side by side near the podium fell to the ground as well. It's like being stuck in some insane turbulence. That was how it felt to Ben. It felt like the ground was disappearing beneath him. His entire body was being swung left and right by the shaking. It seemed to have a seismic intensity of around 5 or 6. Has the Great Kanto earthquake finally arrived? Of all times for it to hit, it hits now? Immediately after thinking that, a fierce pain shot through Ben, causing him to groan out in pain. It felt as if he had taken a violent blow to the head. But he had not been physically struck by anyone. It was simply a severe headache. Suddenly, a scream echoed throughout the conference room. Gritting his teeth, Ben looked up to see one of the detectives gripping his head as he writhed in agony. And then, like a lifeless doll, he fell to the ground with a thump. Most of the other detectives were gripping their heads as well, their faces contorted in pain. What was this headache that bore no resemblance to any he had experienced before? Whether it was connected to the earthquake, there was no way for Ben to know. Eventually, the shaking gradually subsided. With his vision blurred, Ben looked out the window. Everything was covered in a milky white light. A light so dazzling, Ben could no longer keep his eyes open. Huh. As I opened my eyes, I felt a pain sharp enough to crack my skull open. I found myself slumped over in the middle of my room. I tried to get up, but the pain in my head suddenly shot to the rest of my body, and I nearly fainted from the agony. I let out a pained groan. After 5 full minutes of pure, writhing torture, the pain receded slightly, and I managed to stand up by using the leg of my bed to support myself. I wiped off the cold sweat on my forehead with my hand. My room was completely devastated. It was as if a tornado had ripped through it. All my waifus lined up on the shelf had toppled over, and some had even fallen off the shelf entirely. The bed was now sitting at an angle, and the piles of eroge and packages had crumpled to the floor and scattered everywhere. What the hell had happened? If I remembered correctly, there had been a phone call that had played the melody of You May Pass, before then transitioning into something like an ambulance siren. It was exactly the same as last time. That's right. Right when the buzzard sounded, I'd heard the ground roar, and immediately after that, my whole body had felt like it was boiling and melting. And then, I couldn't remember a damn thing. It was all completely blank. God. Was it an EM wave attack from Shogun? What if Shogun was capable of something similar to what was in the patent I'd found? Just the thought alone sent a chill down my spine. While trying my best to endure my headache, I looked up at the ceiling. Of course, there wasn't anything to see up there. But if he was reading my mind, he'd have to be using a satellite that'd be in an orbit way up there.
いくらなんでもそんなはずないよ。
There's no way. That is impossible. But, considering what Santa had told me before, that patented system could already be in use. Maybe it was in use, and a few people were already abusing it. And maybe Shogun was among them. No, there was no way. It was way too far-fetched. There's no way an old fart like him with one foot in the grave would have private access to a satellite. Unless he was one of the key persons behind a top-secret black project sanctioned by the government. Scaring myself with my own delusions wasn't helping anything. Since something had actually happened, I decided to look up what the hell it was online. Still fighting my headache, I crawled toward my computer.
あれ
The computer should have still been on. The monitor should have been displaying a wallpaper with Sierra on it, but it was pitch black. I hadn't set it up to automatically go into sleep mode, so it wouldn't make any sense for it to do that. I was feeling dizzy. It was as if I had no strength left in my body. Even standing up took almost everything I had. Gritting my teeth, I attempted to move the mouse around. No response. Next, I tried to press the power button. After a second, the hard disk started, emitting its typical scratching noise. I sank down on my chair. As I was waiting for my PC to boot, I frantically grabbed my phone, which was still on my desk. I checked the time.
13時
Huh? 1 p.m.? Before I'd gotten that phone call, what time had it been back when I was browsing the Yasi stuff on that channel? When I tried using my brain, the stabbing pain coursing through it got even worse. Think. The time. Remember the time. It couldn't have been... Yeah, it hadn't been noon yet. Which meant...
1時間以上も気絶してた。
I've been unconscious for over an hour? Or maybe I'd been sleepwalking, and I'd ended up wandering off somewhere else for an hour.
僕は無遊病じゃない。
No, I'm not a sleepwalker. I shook my head violently, trying to stop thinking about things that would make me sink back into negative bullshit. As I did so, my vision wobbled from the pain still hammering in my head. It was like a lump of lead was sitting in the middle of my skull. And when I looked at my PC monitor, I saw... Oh.
おい、マジで
Hey, what the hell? No way. The hard disk data was corrupted?
嘘だ。そんなのありえない。あっちゃダメだ。そんなことになったら全てが終わる。
You're kidding me. There's no way. If this is for real, this is the end of everything. It was where I stored my giga-sized collection of R18 Mopics, my Rogue save data, all my bookmarks for sites I browsed daily, my minimum attendance chart, and, the thing I treasured the most, my ESO save data. You're telling me everything's gone?
くそ。
Fuck. I wanted to cry out in frustration. I wanted to smash my keyboard in anger. I wanted to kick the wall with everything I had. Before I did anything, though, I needed to check if I could restore it. But my whole body was still heavy, and my headache refused to go away. All I could do was bite my lip and sink deeper into my chair. It was over. My life was over. Losing my ESO data meant I had no reason left to live. Nothing mattered anymore. It all burned away. Just me.
待ってタッキー
Wait a sec, Taki. With an angelic smile on her face, Siritan gently called for me from atop my desk.
冷静になりなよ。円数みたいなオンラインのゲームってセーブデータは全部サーバーに保存されてるんじゃない？
Cool your jets. Since ESO's an online game, shouldn't the save data be all on a server somewhere? By server, you mean the dev server?
だからたとえタッキーの PC が壊れてもナイトハルトッチのデータは消えてないはずっしょ？
So, even if your computer did kick the bucket, Nightheart's data should still be on the server, righto? Oh, you're right. I was so dizzy and confused, I'd forgotten even the basics. It felt like I'd finally found a ray of hope shining through the endless despair. I knew I could depend on my waifu. I'd still have to give up on my treasured pics and MP3s that I hadn't backed up, though. I needed to start reformatting the OS as quickly as possible. And I wanted to see it with my own two eyes that my ESO data was safe. Though, in order to do that, the headache that was still torturing me had to stop. Fortunately for me, the pain didn't feel like it was going to go anywhere anytime soon. There was rarely ever a moment in which the screens of Shibuya Station were not colored with advertisements, video clips, or music videos from the latest popular artists. And yet, currently, the screens were instead displaying a female anchor with a grave expression on her face. It was an ongoing special TV broadcast. Sensational words decorated the top left of the screen. S15 earthquake in Shibuya, over 200 casualties. Earthquakes were not particularly unexpected in Japan. The Tokyo metropolitan area had already fallen victim to several seismic intensity 5 earthquakes over the years. However, as the media gathered more and more information about the incident, the sheer number of casualties made it clear that this was no ordinary earthquake. It was especially peculiar when compared to the 2005 earthquake, also seismic intensity 5, where no fatalities had been reported. Moreover, the epicenter was Shibuya, a city which was already the center of attention in Japan due to the New-Gen incidents. There had already been an earthquake in Shibuya approximately 3 months prior. It was a seismic intensity 3 quake, and 8 people had died. Maybe Shibuya is cursed. That was what the people observing the breaking news about the latest earthquake were thinking, even if they were not saying it aloud. In any case, each station had started their special broadcast right when the earthquake hit. Information was having trouble circulating, and the total death count was still unclear. Nonetheless, the female anchor continued to report. Reading from a stack of papers, she declared, "The Fire and Disaster Management Agency has confirmed 31 deaths, and that number is expected to rise as they continue to aid those affected. The causes of death remain unknown, but the..." Furthermore, various reports described a mysterious white light appearing immediately after the earthquake had hit. According to these reports, the light had been accompanied by a massive shock wave, and it had turned the sky completely white. The camera spread across Shibuya Scramble Crossing had caught the aforementioned light on tape, and after the earthquake ended, nothing but pure white footage was displayed on a loop on the jumbotrons located there. The discoloration that appeared alongside the earthquake had not simply been a dull white. However, it had been utterly blinding. Shibuya had been momentarily enveloped in light, the sheer glare forcing each and every resident's eyes shut. If this were an era of war, the people would have undoubtedly believed it to have come from a nuclear weapon. As a matter of fact, there were some who claimed to have spotted a white mushroom cloud floating a few hundred meters above Shibuya, though it was quick to vanish. No one knew what the origin of the light was, nor if it was connected to the earthquake. And then, just as mysteriously as its arrival, the sky had returned to its original color in less than an hour, and now a dull light blue lay above the people of Shibuya. The asphalt of Dogonzaka was very slightly cracked, its damage only millimeters wide, and the multi-tenant buildings, together with many other structures along the center guy, had all grown small crevices across their walls. The reformatting of my OS had taken nearly 2 hours to finish, and yet my headache still hadn't gone away. I'd even lost consciousness a few times from the pain. I'd passed out on my keyboard from exhaustion before, but today was the first time I'd literally passed out. On the plus side, though, the pain was way more bearable now than it had been 2 hours ago. I wet my throat with some cola, and then, summoning all my energy, stood up. I fixed my broken bed and made it level again. Then I cleaned my floor to an extent that I'd be able to walk around. Took a lot of effort to do because of how weak I was feeling, but it had to be done. I wouldn't have been able to leave my own room otherwise. If Shogun were to attack again, not that I actually knew if it was him this time, I would have been trapped and unable to escape. In other words, I'd be completely fucked. I had to secure an escape route, or else. Once I'd finished reformatting my OS and cleaning my room, I went straight to the PC, installed ESO, and tried logging into Baselard.
やった。やった。ナイトハルトは消えてない。装備とかも全部無事だ。よかった。よかった。
It worked. It worked. Nightheart isn't gone. My items and equipment are all here. Oh, thank God. Thank God. I was so moved that I tried to get up and pump my fist in the air, but even that took too much energy, so I gave up halfway through. I couldn't have been more happy to see my other self alive and well. I thought he was gone forever. Okay, time for the next step. While it was definitely a huge load off my shoulders, I still wanted to try and figure out what exactly had even happened, not to mention demand compensation and a formal apology. It seemed like an earthquake, but there were way too many things that didn't add up if it were true. I looked for Grimm inside Baselard, but he was nowhere to be found. I went to check the chat room, but since I'd lost my bookmarks, I had trouble finding it. When I eventually did, though, I discovered that Grimm wasn't there either. Of all times for him to have gone AWOL, why now? With no options left, I had no choice but to head straight to Taboo itself. On it, I found the following article. Over 200 casualties in Shibuya. So there really had been an earthquake. It had been a seismic intensity 5 quake, and loads of people had died. The casualties were currently set at 200, but the article stated that the number may even go beyond that. There were also reports of Shibuya sky turning pure white for a short period of time, as well as a giant mushroom cloud, though no one knew if either of those were connected to the earthquake. The earthquake was also being discussed on that channel, with people posting things like more Shibuya stuff, or Shibuya is over, or whatever else. There was also a video uploaded on there showing footage of Scramble Crossing that had been taken from its various surveillance cameras.
これ、地震だけじゃないよね。
This wasn't just an earthquake, right? When it happened, I'd been hit with a terrible headache, and it wasn't just your normal headache. It felt like my head was boiling. And even now, almost 2 hours later, I was still experiencing throbbing pain and fatigue.
電子レンジに閉じ込められたら、あんな風になるかもしれない。
Maybe that's how you'd end up if you got stuck in a microwave. If I thought about it that way, my delusion that Shogun was going after me with EM wave attacks might not have been so far-fetched. Right at that moment, I heard a familiar sound come from my PC. It was the notification tone that played whenever someone entered the chat room. Grim might have joined. I wanted to get the full story of what had happened, so I opened up the chat room. Eek. It's Shogun. Oh, it's spelled different. The moment I saw that name, a shriek escaped my mouth. What was with his timing? Could he actually read my mind after all? The hand I was using to hold the mouse was trembling. My entire body was frozen in fear, overriding even my headache. Just looking at Shogun's name made me feel sick, but I couldn't look away. I wanted to close the chat room, but I was in such a state of shock, my mind and body felt like they had been ripped apart. I tried desperately to move the mouse, but my body simply refused to listen to me. I felt chills on the nape of my neck. I was being watched. God's gaze. Or maybe it wasn't God. Maybe it was Shogun's gaze being shot down from an orbiting satellite. Just leave me alone. I wanted to run away. But where would I run? It didn't matter where I went. Even if I went to the very edges of Japan, he'd still catch me. Oh. That was the first thing Shogun said to me. Shogun, it's been a long time. He'd said it like he was just casually saying hello to a friend he hadn't seen in a while. But I knew for a fact I had never, ever considered this guy a friend. My teeth sank into my lip as I stared at the words written across the monitor. However, instead of making me freeze out of fear, the message from Shogun instead sent me grabbing for my phone. It was past 3 p.m. At this hour, classes were probably still in session, but surely my situation wasn't hopeless. If Remy was here, she could do something. That's why I wanted to believe. I went to my address book, although it wasn't much of a book considering how empty it was, and called Remy's phone number.
助けて、リミ。
Save me, Remy. Shogun,
リミ、早く。 出て
Remy, quick. Pick up. Shogun, do you hate me? It was hard to breathe. I couldn't think straight. Remy wasn't picking up. There was no voice on the other end, only the monotonous dialing sound repeating endlessly. Why? Whenever I'm in trouble, you're always there for me. So why aren't you answering? Shogun, I have a present for you. A present? You're gonna send me some more disgusting shit. And this time you're gonna blame me for it. You're gonna pin me as a new gen culprit. No, anything but that. It's not me. I'm not the culprit. Yeah, what he said. I felt like a fish that had been ripped out of the water. I was losing oxygen. My mind was going fuzzy. My only ray of hope left was Remy. I grasped my phone tighter and tighter, praying with all my might to the other end of the call. She picked up.
助けて
Save me.
留守番電話サービスにおつなぎします。
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. Voice mail? That couldn't be. Discouraged, I hung up the phone. I wrapped my arms around myself. Before I knew it, my body had started trembling. I was more afraid of Shogun than I had thought I was. Since he's freaking out, we're gonna go with delusional. Negative. But why wouldn't I be? He was a homicidal maniac posing as a handicapped person, and he had already committed 5 unspeakable crimes. And I was the next one in his sights.
助けてよ
Somebody, save me. Right then, as if answering my prayers, I heard a faint knocking sound coming from the door.
リミ
Remy. It was Remy. Remy had actually come. My salvation having finally arrived, I headed for the door. Only to stop dead in my tracks. Why was she knocking so hard?
リミ
Is it the cops? Remy. I called out to the other side of the door. The sound ceased. Silence. There was no answer. Please, say something. Why aren't you saying anything?
リミなんでしょう
It's Remy, isn't it?
答えてよ
Please answer me. Without a reply, the knocking resumed. Was it not Remy?
誰だ誰なんだ
Who is it? Who's at the door? Could it be Shogun? Now that I was suspicious, all the courage I had mustered to go and open the door had vanished. I slowly drew backward, going back far enough that I ended up tripping over my chair. And as I did, the pounding on the door remained insistent. Someone was knocking on it, and they weren't stopping. No, it wasn't just the door. The banging sound was coming from the walls and the ceiling too. Whoever was outside wasn't alone.
誰だよ
Who Who are you? Unable to bear the terror any longer, I screamed out. Then, as if in response to me, the sound suddenly stopped. I wanted out. I wanted to run. I wanted to run far away as possible. But how? There was no doubt a group of people outside surrounding the entire container. The sound began echoing again. But this time, it wasn't the sound of knocking. This time, it was the horrifying sound of nails on a chalkboard. It made my skin crawl. And not being able to see the other party made it all the more terrifying. I knew it was Shogun who had sent them, but I had no idea what they looked like. I had no idea what the person harassing me from behind these lone, tiny walls looked like. My entire body was covered in goosebumps, and the sheer discomfort I was feeling made me even more nauseous than I already was. Covered my ears tightly.
やめて。やめてよ。
Stop. Stop it.
許してよ。
Leave me alone. That leave me alone. My younger nephew, he runs around yelling that constantly. Leave me alone. You don't listen to me. Oh shit. It made me laugh. Alright. When I returned to my senses, I was still in front of the monitor. Shocked, I turned toward the rest of the room. I stayed still and listened carefully. I couldn't hear anything anymore. Had it just been a delusion? For more than 5 minutes, I stayed hyper alert to everything that was happening from outside the container, so frightened that I couldn't even move. And then, there weren't any signs of anything suspicious, so I opened the door slightly and peeked outside. There was no one there. Had it really just been a delusion? Even if it had been, I was still just as anxious, and my heart was beating fast. I looked back at the monitor. Shogun had already left the chat room, and all that remained were those 4 lines. Oh, he also wrote, I hope it will please you. Oh. I didn't want to see any of it, so I hurriedly closed the chat room while Shogun wasn't in it. My body was still trembling. Shogun was trying to provoke me. Was it fun fucking with me like this? Had I been chosen as the next victim, and this was means to that end? Or was I just a perfect person to pin his crimes on?
誰か助けて。助けてよ。
Someone, save me. Save me, please. I stared at the post-awakening version of Sierratin, as if I was clinging on to my only refuge.
一人は怖いんだ。
Being alone is scary. I didn't want to be alone. I want someone to be by my side. I want someone to protect me.
そうだ。学校だ。
Right. There's school.
学校へ行けば。
If I go to school, Rimi will be there. I couldn't bear staying here alone with my spiraling anxiety. I took off my worn-out sweatshirt that I usually wore around the house, threw on my uniform, and left my base. Once I was hit with that cold air from the outside world, my headache ever so slightly subsided. The city had a more restless atmosphere to it than usual, probably due to the earthquake from earlier. I didn't know that for sure, though. In the distance, the sound of sirens continued to echo endlessly, but I wasn't sure if they were from ambulances or fire trucks. Could have been both. Yamade Dori, which was 1 block away from me, was completely jammed up. Traffic was bumper to bumper. There were multiple visible accidents, most head-on, and the cars involved had simply been left abandoned on the road. Their drivers nowhere to be found. Those abandoned cars were the cause of this traffic jam. The other drivers were honking their horns like crazy. As I was wandering the streets to get to school, I saw a dog crossing the road, barking. It was a Chihuahua sprinting at full speed, dragging its leash behind its small body. Its eyes were bloodshot, and a large amount of drool was dripping from its open mouth. It had probably gotten separated from its owner. As I absentmindedly watched it get farther and farther away, I tripped on something and nearly fell over. The asphalt was cracked, and one section of the road was ever so slightly lower than the rest. It had most likely come from the earthquake. Stopping right there, I looked up at the sky. There were a few white clouds drifting calmly across the dull light blue. Just after the earthquake hit, something similar to an aurora had formed in the sky and tainted it pure white, but the traces of it had already disappeared. This isn't right. This isn't Shibuya. I couldn't calm down in the slightest. Not just because of the earthquake. Not because of the headache either. It wasn't just those, but a certain urge that was threatening to overtake me. For some reason, walking around like this, it made me feel like I wanted to kill someone. By the time I got to the school gate, the anxiety and sense of dread I'd been feeling were increasing by the second. I had the chills. My body wouldn't stop shivering. My headache was coming back. When I looked closely, I noticed a group of students formed around the third-year building. I looked for Rimi within them. For some odd reason, everyone was looking toward the top of the building, and even those who weren't soon followed suit, almost like a bunch of lemmings.
Oh, Taku!
Oh, Taku! Masumi-kun rushed over to me. I should ask him where Rimi was.
お前、今日学校来てたんだな。
Look who decided to come to school today.
いや、そんなん今はどうでもいいから。
Actually, I'll save the pissing you off for later. He looked gravely serious, and his face was pale. Seeing Masumi-kun like this was very unusual. What the hell was going on?
マジで。やばいよな。あれ。
Things are bad right now, man. Real bad. Things are bad? What did that mean? What was bad?
病気だったんだろ
She was sick, right? Was somebody gonna jump?
精神病のことがバレて余計におかしくなっちゃったらしい。
People probably found out she was sick in the head, and it made her crazier.
さっき飛べるとか言ってたぜ。やべえよ。やばすぎる。
She was saying earlier that she could fly. This is gonna be gnarly. Real gnarly.
俺、人が死ぬとこマジで見てんだけど。
I know I shouldn't, but I really want to see someone.
人黒すぎて最高だぜ。
It's gonna be crazy gory. It'll be awesome.
早く落ちてこねえかな。
Hurry up and jump already. I could hear things like that coming from everywhere around me. Don't tell me. I had a bad feeling about this. Is it the transfer student? Fearfully following the gazes of the other students, I looked up at the school building. On the edge of the rooftop, no, stood a single girl. She was my second guess. In her hand, just like during the concert, was a D sword, with a pose emblematic of praying to God in the heavens above. On the edge of the roof stood Kishimoto Ayase. Wasn't she in that daydream or whatever he had that he was on the rooftop? Yeah.
その体は邪神の影に潜む。
The shadow of the wicked heart lurks within that body,
目には映らない存在。
a presence which the eye cannot perceive. Kishimoto Ayase felt the wind blowing. The cold wind brought with it a faint hint of winter. Her expression inundated with pain. Huge drops of sweat formed on her face as she faced the chilled gales.
離れようとも離れようとも
Even if I try to split asunder, even if I try to split asunder,
冷めぬ悪夢は
perpetual nightmares alas take shape. Sume Academy rooftop was enclosed by a 2-meter higher wire fence. Ayase was staying on the other side of it, occupying a space of only around 30 centimeters. 10 months had passed since she had first started standing there. One more step, and she would fall from the roof of the 4-story school building. Many students were gathered below Ayase, watching her with bated breath.
やがて剣となりて
And eventually become a sword,
この身を切り裂くのだろう。
one that will tear this body apart. Although the police and emergency services had already been contacted, they had yet to arrive, likely due to the earthquake that had only hit a few hours prior. The teachers were running around in a panic, scrambling to get gym mats ready in case of the worst possible outcome.
無関心という名の盾で
Should they bear the shield of apathy,
戦火を免れる人々。
these souls shall escape the flames of war. And yet, Ayase stood completely still, unperturbed by the ruckus below. Or rather, she had deliberately cut herself off from the rest of the world that lay beneath her. As she gazed up to the sky, Ayase closed her eyes, her pose emulative of that of a maiden praying to the heavens. Due to her good sense of balance, the wind did not manage to sway her slender body. A fact made all the more impressive by her grasping a sword as long as she was tall.
神聖なる戦場の敵は
On a battlefield reborn,
心の内の悪意なるもの。
come foes with malice in their hearts, ill will without compare. The sword, her D-sword, was blinking with a pale blue light. As if synchronized with it, Ayase's labored breathing continued. And then, she began to murmur once more.
悪意は時として意志を持ち
When the time comes, malice shall possess its own will,
そしてその姿を表す。
and thus reveal its true form. The verses she unfolded through her murmurs soon vanished into the wind. Ayase opened her eyes and gazed at the crimson sky spreading over the buildings of Shibuya.
この世界は悪意の妄想に満ち溢れている。
This world is laden with malicious delusions.
みんな他人の不幸が大好き。
Everyone thrills from the misery of others.
目を閉じても耳を塞いでも
Try as I might to close my eyes, to cover my ears, it is futile.
昔からずっと私のそばを離れてくれないわ。
For ever so long, they have never left me. As she breathed this soliloquy into the air, Ayase pulled her gigantic sword to her chest and gently embraced it with both arms. Curiously, the sharp sword did not leave a single injury on her.
帰りたかった。
I wanted to return.
大いなる意志が住むもう一つの世界に。
Return to the other world, where the greater will resides.
そのために心を切り刻んで全部受け入れたわ。
And to accomplish that feat, I hewed my heart, accepting it all within.
混沌の器としての夢を。
Dreaming to be the vessel of chaos. Yase's face twisted in sorrow. Tears quietly spilled from her eyes. Droplets, flowing voicelessly, were all swiftly carried away by the wind.
だけどグラジオールの帯同が活発化している。
However, Gladiola quickens increasingly so.
時間がないのに
There's no longer any time left.
見つからない見つからないのよ。
I cannot find them. I cannot find them anywhere.
天国の扉も賢者も導き手も七つの神罰も
Not heaven's gate, nor the wise, nor the guide, nor the 7 divine punishments.
黒騎士の伝説は本当なの。
Are the Black Knights even real?
歌はもうたくさん歌ったわ。
I have already recited the unending number of verses.
それで足りないって言うなら
If that was insufficient for you,
大いなる意志よ。
oh, greater will. Yasi spread her arms out far and wide, as if trying to embrace the sky itself, as if trying to show her presence to God on high.
私は飛ぶわ。
Then I shall fly. The pale blue pulsation of her sword intensified. Yasi closed her eyes once more, and in that moment, a final tear dropped from the corner of her eye.
お願いこの器は差し出すから。
I beg of you, O greater will, take this vessel as an offering.
魂を連れて行って。
Take my soul away with you. And then, without a moment's hesitation, the girl, with nothing there to support her, took a step forward.
帰るべき場所へ。
Toward the place I must return. She felt the cold caressing her cheek. Her gaze fell to the earth. Huh. Looming closer as she fell was a door, a gate, and on the other side of it was the sky Ayase desired. I couldn't do anything but watch it unfold. After Ayase spread her arms out, she slowly stepped into the thin air, as if taking a step down with a non-existent staircase. Screams began to build among the spectators, coalescing into one gigantic roar. With nothing left to support her, Ayase, like a puppet whose strings had been cut, fell headfirst towards the ground. Everything appeared to be in slow motion. Ayase's body was going to crash to the ground. Her descent was incredibly slow, but she was definitely falling. She was gonna die. Ayase was gonna die. I couldn't do anything to stop it. I couldn't save someone from falling that high. There was nothing but concrete below her. would crush all our bones, rupture all our organs, and make the dark blood and gray matter spurt out all over the ground. If only there was a flower bed or something. If only there was something soft below her. If there was, maybe it could save her. I didn't want to see someone die. As I went to close my eyes, for an ephemeral moment, I felt chills on the nape of my neck. I looked behind me, but not a soul was standing there. Everyone was looking down, averting their eyes, or looking up at her. Whose eyes are those eyes? The sound shook the air. The sound of a person crashing down. It was the first time I'd ever heard that sound. But it had a lot less impact than I was expecting.
まさか。
What the? Next to me stood Masumi-kun, his eyes wide as dinner plates. I expected his gaze to be tainted by dread, but the way he stared at the place Ieyasu had fallen was one of surprise, not horror. And it wasn't just Masumi-kun that was like that. All of the spectators looked like they had no idea what was going on. They were all lost for words.
生きて。
She's alive? Huh? She was alive? Ieyasu wasn't getting up. I couldn't tell if her bones were crushed. I couldn't tell if her organs had ruptured. But her gray matter hadn't spurted everywhere, nor had her dark blood. A small, feeble groan escaped from Ieyasu mouth. She was alive. She seemed to be unconscious, and she wasn't moving, but she was alive. She was barely even injured. There was only a small drop of blood on her forehead. She had fallen from the rooftop, but there she was, lying there almost completely unharmed, lying atop a flower bed.
花壇に。
A flower bed? Was there always a flower bed there? Huh.
予定と結果に大きな違いがあったようだが。
It appears there was quite the discrepancy between what we had envisioned and the actual results.
我々は進化への第一歩を踏み出したんですよ。
I assure you, it was merely the first step toward evolution.
三桁もの死人が出るなど我々は聞いておらんぞ。
You neglected to inform us that the number of fatalities would exceed 100.
計画に不備があったのかね。
Was the plan flawed from the offset?
いいえ、
No, sir.
お二人にはぜひ人の進化の歴史というものを振り返ってみていただきたいものですね。
I would like the two of you to reflect upon the evolutionary process of mankind.
進化には多少の犠牲はつきものという点については異論はない。
I can acknowledge that evolution requires sacrifice.
死人のことなどどうでもいい。
The deaths bear no importance to me.
重要なのは予定と違うということだ。
The critical issue is how it diverged from our plans.
想定の範囲内ですよ。私の中ではね。
It has always been within expectations, on the basis of my internal predictions, that is.
ならばなぜ事前に我々へ連絡せんのだ。
Then why didn't you inform us beforehand?
情報をコントロールするにはそれなりの下準備が必要なのだぞ。
In order to control information, preliminary arrangements are required.
貴様の推挙のために人や金を犠牲にしてきたわけではない。それを忘れるな。
We're not sacrificing important resources, people, money, namely, to feed your eccentricity. Remember that.
ご安心を。先ほど申しました通り、全ては想定の範囲内。
Rest assured, as I previously stated, everything is within expectations.
いずれ近いうちに選挙での票集めに苦労することも、強引な勧誘活動を告発される恐れもなくなるでしょう。
Before long, there will be no need to endure the hardship of gathering votes for elections, nor will there be risks of prosecution for extorted political canvassing.
我々が日本、いや、世界を変える日もじきに。
The day we will transform Japan, no, the entire globe, is drawing near.
口を慎め。300人委員会への造反が知れれば、我らに待っているのは破滅だけだ。
Be discreet, for if the Committee of 300 discovers our mutiny against them, our lives will be forfeit.
君の役目は計画通りに事を進めることであって、それ以上でも以下でもないよ。
Your duty is to act in accordance with the plan. Nothing more, nothing less.
調整は我々がやる。
We will be the ones performing adjustments.
承知しています。
I am well aware of this.
それで第二世代についての報告を聞こうか。
No matter. Let us hear your report regarding the second
お
generation.
二人にも満足していただける仕上がりですよ。
Very well. You gentlemen will be pleased to hear the final results.
ノア2。
Noah 2 is... I bolted away from the school as fast as I could, and ran all the way to the park. Only when I felt like I was about to suffocate did I stop. My lungs were in dire need of oxygen, and as I gasped for breath, I took a quick look around the park. There was no one around. There was no one there I was afraid of. Neither Shogun nor Yua were anywhere to be seen. Relieved, I tried to catch my breath. It was almost evening. The sky's blue was slowly turning orange with the twilight. Compared to the insanity of school that had felt so unreal, this park was completely quiet, just as it always was. The incident from before had ended as a failed attempt. Yasi had then been taken away on an ambulance, but I had no way of knowing what happened after that. After going through all that, I gave up on searching for Remy and came here to the park instead. The scene from only a few minutes ago was engraved into my mind. Back then, when Yasi's body came crashing down, I'd been convinced that nothing could save her. But she had been saved. I didn't know how exactly, but I at least knew she wasn't dead. She had been breathing, virtually unharmed too. Under normal circumstances, she would have absolutely died. The thing that had saved her was a total miracle. She'd fallen on top of the tender soil of a flower bed. Something that was physically impossible. It was physically impossible for Yasi to have fallen on top of a flower bed, because there hadn't been a flower bed there. Just before Yasi had fallen, the place where she was going to fall had nothing but the gray asphalt of a parking lot. A number of Sume teachers parked there. So how had a flower bed just appeared there? Had I done that? It was true that at the time I'd been so frightened that I had a delusion about how a flower bed appearing below her could save her. But even then, was it really possible? Was it really possible that the delusion had become Reality? Okay, let's consider it. First, I had a feeling that I might or might not have special powers. Second, there was a time Ayase had split in two, and now I just experienced something similar to that. So, creating a flower bed in an instant, how could I achieve something that extraordinary? I didn't even have a D-sword. And on top of that, the flower bed had continued to exist even after Ayase had crashed into it. When the teachers had rushed to check on her and the flower bed, their footprints had been visible. The flowers blooming there, which appeared to be the same as the ones in the courtyard, had been trampled over by the emergency services. When I looked, a number of the flowers had either been flattened or had their stems completely bent. And the flower bed might have still been there, in that state. A delusion had become reality, and it stayed that way? It hadn't disappeared afterward, which made it different from Ayase's other self. And everyone had accepted the idea that the flower bed being there was only natural. No one even questioned it. Had I seriously done that?
Oi!
Hey.
Huh?
Huh. A sharp voice called for me from behind. Before I even got the chance to turn around, a hand grabbed me by the collar. With no chance to resist, I was shoved violently against the playground equipment. Ugh, ah. I groaned in pain as my back hit the equipment hard. Oh shit.
お前だな。
That was you, wasn't it?
あの花壇を作ったの。
You made that flower bed. It was her, Santa. She was the one tossing me around. I mean, it's gotta be positive, right? She continued gripping my collar with tremendous strength. It grew hard to breathe. I tried to fight back by squirming and flailing around with my arms, but she refused to let go. Her eyes were filled with a sharp, murderous light. It sent a shiver down my spine. Thinking I was about to die, I shook my head in desperate denial.
とぼけるな。
Don't play dumb with me. Oh, that's a delusion. I could feel Sina's breath on my cheeks. Just the thought of her only needing to move a bit closer to rip my throat out with her teeth genuinely terrified me. Staring at me point blank range, Sina. I felt something soft press against my lips. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew was that I couldn't breathe, and I was getting really dizzy. I tried to push myself away from her, but Sina was still grabbing me by the chest, so I couldn't move. Something began wriggling lustily against my lips, and then it penetrated my mouth. It twisted roughly around my tongue, slid across my gums, and violated me orally. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was, for some reason, it felt really good. But I was still having trouble breathing. I was about to pass out. But just before I would have, the wriggling object left my mouth. Sina's lips glistened with saliva. She had been staring at me with murderous eyes only a few moments ago, but now, her eyes looked utterly enchanted. Wait, had she just kissed me?
お前こそ勇者だ。
You're a hero.
お前の力を私に貸せ。私と一緒に戦え。
Lend me your strength. Fight by my side.
拒否するのは許さない。
You can't refuse. You're coming whether you like it or not. After rattling off that insanity in an angry voice, Santa brought her face to mine once again. She pressed her lips madly against mine and violated my mouth. Her hot breaths and sweet saliva trickled past my lips. Yeah, I'm not doing all the moaning.
私は勇者に純血を捧げるために生まれてきた巫女だ。
I am a priestess born for the sole purpose of offering my pure blood to a hero. In a state of pure ecstasy, she rattled off line after line that made me think, what a rogue is this?
お前がいないとこの戦いには勝てない。
We can't win this war without you.
さあ、血の契約を交わそう。
Now, let's exchange a contract of blood. Seeing his teeth sink deeply into my lip, pain shot through me and the taste of blood spread inside my mouth.
お前が欲しい。
I want you. Did she have any idea how to ask someone something? Even if she did, everything she had said was completely absurd. But the sensation of basically getting her reversed. Well, to be blunt, I was hard as a rock. I could get into this kind of roleplay.
おい、無視するな。
Don't you dare ignore me. I shot back to my senses. Sana was still grabbing me by the chest. She still had me pinned to the playground equipment. And her face was still really close. Our eyes met, and my face went hot.
その力のことを誰に教わったんだって聞いているんだ。
I said, who taught you how to use that power? I didn't remember her asking anything like that. Of course not. Maybe that scenario from earlier was just a delusion I'd used to escape reality. Maybe. Despite me still trying to wrap my head around the situation, Santa didn't seem to care and started shaking me violently.
誰からだ？答えろ。
Who was it? Answer me.
天聖信仰会とは関係あるのか？ないのか？
Are you involved with the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light or not? Divine Church of the what now? I shook my head reflectively. I can't breathe. You're choking me. I'm gonna pass out. I'm gonna die. I'm done for. Just before I lost consciousness, Santa suddenly let go of me, and I collapsed to the ground. I kept on coughing, struggling desperately to get oxygen into my lungs. Was Santa my enemy after all? Was she another one of Shogun underlings? If she was, then I had to run away.
関係ないならいい。悪かった。
If you're not one of them, I'll let you go. Sorry. Noticing my confusion, Sienna clicked her tongue lightly, then let out a sigh. And then, without saying another word, she went to leave. I guess she wasn't going to hurt me. Then... Wait. Mustering up all my courage, I called after her. I'd expected her to ignore me, but instead, she stopped and turned around. Her expression remained stern, but she still looked like she was willing to listen to what I had to say.
力って何なの？
When you say power, what do you mean? Sana knew something. She'd asked me if I'd created the flower bed from before. Everyone but me had recognized the flower bed as something that had always been there, but that didn't seem to apply to Sana.
さっきの花壇どうなって。
The flower bed from earlier, how did it?
お前が妄想したんだろ。
You had a delusion of it, didn't you? A delusion? I had, but
妄想は現実にすることが可能だ。
it's possible to turn delusions into reality.
本当じゃないものが景色に紛れ込む。
Objects that aren't real blend into the scenery around us.
つまりエラーを現実として認識させる。
In other words, it allows errors to be perceived as real.
でも
But
視界に映すだけじゃそれって幻でしかないよ。
if you can only see it with your eyes, then it's nothing but an illusion. Illusions were nothing more than that. Illusions. Fake stuff you perceived as real. If that flower bed had just been an illusion, then Iyase shouldn't have survived. The only way Iyase would have been saved was if the flower bed hadn't been an illusion, but entirely real.
世界の仕組みは3つの数字で全て説明できる。0と1、そしてマイナス1。
The mechanisms behind the world's function can be explained by 3 numbers: 0, 1, and -1.
ディソードはそのマイナス1を生み出すためのショートカットになる。
A D-sword is a shortcut to produce the last of those, -1.
だがお前はディソードなしでそれをやった。
And yet, you somehow managed to do it without a D-sword. There she goes again. More incomprehensible garbage. Wait, but I realized that what Sana was telling me wasn't just some schizo shit she'd come up with. The VR technology patent did exist, after all, so that at least wasn't BS. Sana definitely knew things that I didn't.
いいか、これ以上エラーを作るな。
From now on, don't produce any more errors. Got it?
それがお前のためだ。
This is for your own sake, not mine.
それと他にもエラーを見たら教えろ。
Also, tell me if you see any other errors. Without letting me even get a word in, Sana blasted me with thing after thing, most of which sounded like threats. And then, when she was finally done, she turned her back to me.
目に見えるものだけを信じられることがどんなに幸せか。
How nice it would be if we could believe everything we see. Yeah, isn't that true? After spitting out one last murmur, this time, Sana finally left the park. The floor of aged Tokyo General Hospital that housed the psychiatric ward was engulfed in silence. Ever since the earthquake had struck, the emergency room and surgical ward had been faced with a difficult situation. Injured citizens who had lost consciousness due to unexplained symptoms were being carried into the clinic one after the other. The psychiatric ward, meanwhile, was not nearly as involved in the relief efforts, nor were the outpatient facilities, allowing the latter department to conclude its operations even earlier than usual. Over the last few days, patients suffering from PTSD had come pouring in, but, at least for today, the psychiatric ward had finished with all its outpatient appointments. A nurse there, Hazuki Shino, realized that she had been working non-stop ever since her shift began the night before, and that she had hardly even taken a break. This obviously left her feeling quite exhausted and, of course, hungry. The psychiatric ward had recently lost one of its doctors in the New-Gen incidents, and the person replacing him had yet to arrive, leaving him constantly understaffed. However, despite the shortage, all that remained for today's work were some minor chores that Hazuki could pass off to the next nurse, allowing her to take some time off. Reassuring herself that she only had to persevere for a little longer, Hazuki slapped her cheeks with both hands, then began to walk through the empty lobby, only to suddenly feel a gaze on her back. Chills ran down the nape of her neck. Goosebumps rose across her skin. She reflexively looked behind her, but all she saw was silent corridor. Not a soul was there. Huh?
看護師さん
Miss Nurse. Ah! Hazuki jumped in surprise. She had heard a voice come from an entirely different direction. The origin of the voice was a single man standing in the lobby, which Hazuki had been convinced was empty. He had called out to her the moment he first saw her. He was a fairly young man and appeared quite virile? I don't know. His complexion was nearly faultless, and he looked just as, if not more healthy.
あなたは
Who are you?
ちょっと時間もらっていいっすか
Can I nab a few minutes of your time?
はあ
I suppose.
どうもっす
Much appreciated, miss. He smiled awkwardly, abruptly grabbed Hazuki's arm, and started walking her from the lobby toward the stairs. Hazuki, still quite bewildered, watched as the man, Suwa Mamoru, took out a black ID badge from his pocket and humbly held it out to her. It was a police badge. Stopping at the landing of the staircase, Suwa looked around carefully. He seemed to be very concerned with his surroundings.
それでお話って
What did you need me for? Still having quite a bit of work left to do, Hazuki was feeling slightly restless. Something Suwa seemed to understand implicitly. And then, without any form of introduction, Suwa produced a photo from his pocket.
この少年に見覚えないっすか
Have you seen this boy before? Depicted in the photo was the apathetic face of Nishiju Takumi. Hazuki, confident in her ability to recognize faces due to her profession, nodded her head.
西条拓間違いないっすか
Nishiju Takumi, this is him, yeah?
ええでも
Yes, but... Hazuki's hesitation was only natural. Leaking a patient's private information could only spell trouble, even if it was to the police. But this was something Suwa had been aware of prior to speaking with Hazuki. Suddenly, Suwa's light attitude that he had been displaying up until that moment shifted to a far more serious one, and he began to speak in a low voice.
頼みがあるんですけど
I have a favor to ask.
西条拓の件でこっそり見せてもらえないっすか
Can you let me take a teensy little peek at Nishiju Takumi's medical record? We'll keep it under the table.
そんなの無理です来ません
Huh? That's unthinkable. I can't do that.
とある事件に関わる重要なことなんすよ
It's related to a case I'm working on, so it's really important. Now at a complete loss for words, Hazuki tried to leave, but Suwa circled around her and blocked her path.
困ります
I could lose my job.
迷惑はかけないっすだから頼ますよ
I won't let that happen. Just do this one favor, please. As a last resort, Suwa got down on his knees.
やめてください本当に無理なんです
Please stop. I really, I can't.
これ以上犠牲者を出さないためにも。
It's for the sake of preventing any more victims. Hazuki had no idea what she could do to make him give up. Unable to think of any proper way to say no, Hazuki could do nothing but stammer. I was in a bit of a daze after Sana left, but I quickly shook myself out of it and dashed all the way back to my base. Luckily, I hadn't been confronted by Shogun or Yua on the way. In the end, I'd come back home without finding Rimi. With all the insanity caused by Ayase and the earthquake, the school would probably let everyone go home early. So maybe if I waited a bit, Rimi would show up. In the meantime, though, I'd just have to suck it up and deal with my own fear, alone. To distract myself from my growing anxiety, I went to try and gather information on my freshly restored PC. Right as I thought that, the notification light on my phone, which I had set right next to my monitor, started blinking. When I opened it, I saw that I had received a text. I thought it was Rimi trying to contact me, but when I opened it, Nanami, gotta tell you about school today. Something crazy happened at school today. There was a attempt. It was so freaky. I haven't been that scared in a while. Sniffle. I hope she's okay. Where are you? Were you at school when it all went down, big bro? Oh, and wow, that earthquake was crazy too. It gave me a really bad headache though. What was that all about? So she kind of enjoyed being part of the spectators, huh? That's not fucked up at all. Naturally, I didn't send a reply. I searched online for information on Yasi. Phantasm's official homepage was still down. And none of the newspapers had reported on her either. Well, I guess they had their hands full with the earthquake, so they couldn't really spend the time reporting on some random indie singer's attempt. Where things were now, I had no way of figuring out how exactly Yasi was doing, so I switched topics. There was way more information on the earthquake than when I had checked earlier. Apparently, the death count had risen to 118, and the injured went above 300. Wow, I never thought the fatalities would go beyond 100. The epicenter was Shibuya, and it seemed the damage hadn't spread to the outside. It had been a seismic intensity 5 quake. According to one article, most of the magnetic media within Shibuya had been destroyed. When I thought about how I wasn't the only one who'd experienced such tragedy, it made my frustration erupt all over again. It was true. Undeniable tragedy. My treasured Mopix and Eroge save data, they would never come back. That aside, I couldn't help but feel that this was no normal earthquake. 118 people dying wasn't normal. And of course, that abnormality had grown into a hot topic of discussion online. Jesus Christ, how are they all such uncaring assholes? You guys think this earthquake was caused by the whose eyes or those eyes guy, too? Oh, what the hell? 686. Whose eyes are those eyes? FTW. To 684. Yeah, 100%. How else would 108 people die in an SI5 earthquake? Like, WTF LMAO. I try to think back to what had happened during the earthquake. First, I'd been hit by a tremendous impact. My head had felt like it was boiling, exploding even, a sensation I'd never experienced before. Getting hit by something that bad, dying from shock wouldn't be all that surprising. Telling myself that I shouldn't stick to just the internet, I decided to watch some news on the TV as well. My PC had a TV tuner attached to it, so that was why I didn't have no need for an actual TV.
現在までに死者118名、重軽傷者300名以上と非常に多くの犠牲者が出ていることが分かっています。
We've received word about the unusually large number of casualties. As of this moment, there are over 118 confirmed fatalities and over 300 injured.
さて、渋谷の駅前と中継がつながったようです。
We have managed to successfully reach the crew in front of the Shibuya station.
島谷さん、現地の様子はいかがですか？
Shimatani-san, what is the situation there?
2005年に同じように震度5の地震が東京であったんですよ。その時はゼロで、なぜ今回は100名以上の被害者が出ているんですか？
There was a similar seismic intensity 5 earthquake back in 2005. However, that earthquake had no victims to speak of. So why is it that there are over 100 on this occasion?
被害者の数は震度に比例するわけじゃないんです。そこには様々な要因がありまして。
The number of victims isn't proportional to what you would expect at this seismic intensity. There are multiple factors that may contribute to the...
亡くなった方の死因や病院に運ばれた負傷者の容体については、未だ詳しい情報が入っておりません。
Regrettably, we do not yet have any details on the causes of death, nor on the conditions of the injured who were transported to the nearest hospital.
また、渋谷区を中心に磁気メディアが全壊してしまっていることについて、今日は専門家にお越しいただいております。
Today, we welcome experts to enlighten us on the complete destruction of magnetic media, an event which only occurred specifically within Shibuya.
地質学産業研究所より林原泰造先生、財団法人地質調査環境センターより小沢幹人先生にお越しいただきました。
We are joined here by Mr. Hayashibara Tezu of the Geological Industries Laboratory, and Mr. Ozawa Mikihito of the Geological Survey Foundation's Environmental Center.
林原さん、今回の地震について磁気メディアに深刻な被害が出た原因というのはどういうところにあるんでしょうか？
Hayashibara-san, how would you explain the severe damage caused to magnetic devices that occurred during this earthquake?
まず知っておいていただきたいのは、渋谷区あたりの地下200メートル付近には磁鉄鉱、つまり天然の磁石が多く埋蔵されている地層があるということですね。
Before I answer your question, we must establish one very important factor. Roughly 200 meters below Shibuya lies a chunk of magnetite. That is to say, a geological stratum with a large deposit of natural magnets.
地層の分類としては火成岩層ですが、私たちはこのエリアを磁鉄鉱の谷、マグネタイトバレーと呼んでいます。
In terms of how to refer to said stratum, it is classified as igneous rock, but we casually address this area as the Magnetite Valley.
地中にある磁石の谷ですね。文字通りかなり大規模な岩脈なんですよ。
It is a valley of magnets embedded deep within the earth. As its name implies, it is a rather large vein of rock. More precisely, a dike.
ここにですね、今回の地震のような大きな刺激が加わったとするならば。
And see here, when a major stimulus arises, such as the earthquake that just occurred.
その影響で地上に存在する磁生態、主に磁気メディアの持つ記録部に、致命的なダメージを与えてもおかしくはないんです。
It is not surprising that the consequence of said stimulus would be fatally damaging to all magnetic media on the surface, especially the components used for data recording.
何をバカな。
How absurd.
小沢先生は別の意見ですか？
Do you have a different opinion, Mr. Ozawa?
確かに渋谷の地下には巨大なマグネタイトの岩脈があることは事実です。
Very much so. While it is true that there is a large dike of magnetite below Shibuya,
ですが、磁石と呼ぶにはあまりにも微弱なこのマグネタイト群にはですね、地上の磁気モーメントや安定磁場を崩すほどの力はないというのが通説になっています。
it is widely accepted that this magnetite formation, too weak to even be referred to as actual magnets, does not harbor sufficient power to distribute magnetic moments in stable magnetic fields above ground.
実際ですね、過去にも震度5の地震は何度も発生しています。過去のそれらの地震では今回のような被害はなかった。
In actuality, seismic intensity 5 earthquakes have already occurred in the past, multiple times even. Yet, in those cases, no such events as the ones observed during this earthquake transpired.
なので、原因は別にあるのではないかと考えるのが妥当だと思います。
Thus, I think it is reasonable to assume that the origin of the problem is different from the one you suggest.
そうは言うがね、今回の異常な犠牲者数については、ただの地震では片付けられない何かがあるのが事実なわけであり。
An interesting theory, but it is undeniable that the extraordinary number of casualties simply cannot be explained by the nature of the earthquake alone. I believe we can both agree on that.
渋谷にいた人のほとんどが頭痛がしたって訴えていることからも間違いなく自鉄鋼が関係している可能性が。
A not insignificant number of Shibuyan citizens reported suffering from a peculiar headache. From these testimonies, it is reasonable to surmise that the magnetite is very likely to be in...
磁場ごときで100人も殺せると主張するおつもりですか？
Do you mean to claim that the magnetic field could kill over 100 people?
それではここで CM です。
We'll be right back after these messages.
結局詳しいことは何もわからずか。
In other words, they don't know anything concrete. Right after the earthquake, there had been a huge white mist floating above Shibuya. It turned the sky completely white, and yet it hadn't even been mentioned on the news. When the information had been fresh, everyone made sure to report on it. But now, they were acting like it never happened. Something about that just felt wrong. The off-hours entrance to HA Tokyo General Hospital featured an area where ambulances could pull up alongside the building in order to deliver emergency patients. 2 ambulances were currently parked there, and paramedics were carrying those injured during the earthquake into the hospital. A doctor wearing light green surgical scrubs and the middle-aged head nurse accompanying him were loudly directing the paramedics through the process. The area around the off-hours entrance was already lined with patients waiting to receive treatment, the sheer number of which indicated how busy the doctors truly were. There were 2 types of patients getting carried into the hospital. First, the ones suffering from physical trauma. Patients would come with blood flowing from their arms, legs, foreheads, their faces contorted in pain. While their state made them difficult to look upon, their treatment had been relegated to a lower priority. The other type was those who were unconscious despite showing no signs of physical trauma. These patients were prioritized. The number of unconscious people was awfully high among the emergency patients brought in from this particular earthquake. Such a high number had not been observed following the previous major earthquakes. It was an entirely new phenomenon. Moreover, the doctors were unable to explain the reason why so many of them had fallen unconscious. Another ambulance arrived at the hospital, its siren blaring loudly. When the emergency responders disembarked from the ambulance, the doctor asked the patient's condition, and the paramedic immediately responded with, "Top priority." That was all it took. In a normal situation, the doctor would have protested, asked for more information. In such an unprecedented, chaotic situation, one would have expected that just shouting "top priority" would be answered by a succinct "you don't say," whatever. And yet, surprisingly, both the doctor and the head nurse merely gave a light nod, then proceeded to help unload the stretcher from the ambulance. The person lying on the stretcher was Kishimoto Oyase. She was unconscious, yet faint moans escaped her lips. Paying no mind to the resentful gazes of the injured patients sitting around the entrance, the doctor and paramedics hurriedly carried the stretcher inside the hospital. A girl stood at the hospital's main entrance, observing the situation from a distance. Sakihara Rimi's eyebrows furrowed atop her stern expression. Her teeth sank into her lip. Kishimoto-san. Obviously, I was concerned about the earthquake, but Shogun was way more of an issue to me. I couldn't get him out of my head. And speaking of, my headache was more or less gone, but anxiety had already swooped right on in to replace it, as did the depression that came with being alone. I still hadn't heard from Rimi. I tried to call her myself, but had gone straight to voicemail. Up until now, Rimi had always come dashing in to rescue me, to tell me everything would be fine. So of all days for her not to do that, why today? Hadn't she told me that she'd always stay by my side? I gritted my teeth, and then, as a way to escape my anxiety, I decided to focus entirely on reconfiguring my PC. First things first, I needed to fix the settings on my email software. It had been forever since I'd first set it up, so I couldn't remember how exactly to do it. So the first thing I had to do was find the instruction manual that had been included with the email software provided by my ISP. Despite not putting in much actual physical work, I found myself drenched in sweat. I'd nearly given up out of frustration multiple times throughout the process. It ended up eating a full hour of my time, half of which was spent trying to find the damn manual, just to recover my email address. Well, now that I had it back, I should check it right away.
メールだよ、ボケナス。
You got mail, you big dum-dum. Jeez, you got some interesting emails, huh? Ah, I could finally hear that voice again. I felt so relieved. All that pain and suffering had all been worth it. I had 8 new emails, all of which were spam. Actually, hidden among the spam was an email with a strange subject line and an even stranger sender. I groaned reflexively. What the hell? Was Nanami trying to prank me? If she was, then it was a pretty shitty thing to do. I genuinely wanted to punch her in the face. No, wait a minute. There was no reason for me to get an email from Nanami. She had never contacted me using my computer's email address before. She'd always just texted me on my phone, like she had earlier. Not only that, but I had never even given her my email address. Was it just a coincidence? A fluke? Nanami was a common first name, after all. And the phrase, whose eyes are those eyes, had become so popular. Pretty much everyone was using it. There was nothing strange about it being used as a subject for a spam email. But, just to soothe my anxiety, I decided to check the contents.
結構な長文だな。
Ugh, that's pretty wordy. Wait, isn't that the, didn't Shogun, didn't he say that he sent him something? A present? Gave him a present? I wonder if that's what that is.
さっきはチャットで話ができて楽しかったよ。
It was fun chatting with you earlier.
ちなみに送信者の名前はダミー。
Before anything else, though, I should mention, the sender name is an alias.
僕の名前は将軍だよ。
My actual name is Shogun. Huh? Shogun? No, it couldn't be.
将軍が僕のメアド知ってるはずが。
Shogun can't possibly know my email address. How would... Wait, what if Shogun had read my mind? If he had done that, figuring out my email address would be child's play.
嘘でしょ?
That's impossible. What the hell? As I read the email, seeing how friendly he was acting toward me only served to creep me out even more. I'm glad Ayase-san's safe. I initially planned to paint her as the next victim on my new gen canvas, but it works too. You've outdone yourself, Takumi-kun. You've got a new high score. I'm very impressed. You really are something special. But enough about that stuff. Let's talk about Nishuju Nanami-chan. The two of you are siblings, so I'd love to see some juicy drama unfold between you two. Ever since the earthquake hit, Shibuya's been pretty bloodthirsty. Whether we can reach a conclusion so touching, it'll blast all that way in an instant. That's up to you. It's real hard to clear quests unnamed, isn't it? Oh, unarmed. You're a hero, so don't you feel you deserve a legendary sword to match? I know you do, so I hope you're looking forward to what I've got in store for you. Ooh. This guy, he was insane. Why would he? Well, he was talking about quests and high scores like this was some sort of game. At 9 p.m. tonight, I want you to come to the roof of O-Front. You're gonna be on TV, so make sure to put on a heroic tunic. Now then, let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. P.S. Before I forget, did you get my present? Ooh.
僕は勇者なんかじゃない。ナイトハルトじゃない。
I'm not a hero at all. I'm not Neidhart. He is planning to finally kill me. I couldn't go. There was no way I could go. I wanted to run away. Remy, I need you to protect me. Why wasn't she answering me when I tried to contact her? Maybe she'd been injured in the earthquake. But back when I'd seen Misumi-kun, he didn't mention anything happening to her. I picked up my phone and I checked if I'd gotten any calls or texts from Remy. There's none. Remy, where did you go? Oh wait, what did that say? Right as I thought that, something stopped me. It was my text. At the top of the list, I could see the text Nanami had sent me earlier. Well, was Nanami okay? I read Shogun's email again from top to bottom. But enough about that stuff. Let's talk about Nishuju Nanami-chan. Now then, let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. What was that supposed to mean? Forget that. I should just call Nanami. I opened the address book on my phone. Only 3 numbers were registered there. Remy's, Nanami's, and the number from my parents' house. Nanami was always nagging me to call her. Every time we saw each other, she'd bug me about it. Well, since she had asked so many times, I guess I could throw her a bone. So please, answer. If you don't, I'm never calling you again. I swear to God, if you got injured during the earthquake and aren't answering because of it, I'll never let you hear the end of it. I selected Nanami's number and pressed the call button. I put the phone to my ear. I heard nothing. The ringing tone didn't start immediately. It was normal for my phone to take a second whenever I called with it, but right now, that 1 second of silence felt like an eternity. I was getting increasingly antsy. Hurry up already. Finally, it started. Oh. Huh? What? That sound. What was that sound? I pulled my phone away from my ear. Oh, it's ringing in his room. An unfamiliar melody echoed throughout the room. Could it be a ringtone? Whose phone was ringing? But with the timing, what else could it be? I shook my head. We'll go negative. I had never heard Nanami's ringtone, so there was no proof that the melody I was hearing was it. No proof at all. I was getting scared now. I pressed my phone back to my ear. Nanami still wasn't answering. Please, pick up. Pick up the phone already. Oh, she picked up.
Nanami!
Nanami.
ナナミでしょ。返事しろよ。
Nanami, are you there? Answer me.
今どこにいるんだ。
Where are you right now?
大丈夫なの？何か言ってよ。
Are you okay? Come on, say something.
ナナミ
Nanami! I called out desperately to the other end of the line, but the voice that answered back.
少しは
Would you mind?
落ち着いたら
Calming down a little? That voice was Shogun.
なんて。
How? I was horrified. I didn't want to accept it. I called Nanami's phone, but Shogun had answered. Completely dumbfounded, it took all I had just to say the same thing I had before.
なんで
How?
メールの意味がわからなかったのかな。
Did you not understand what I meant by that email?
信じない。
This isn't happening.
こんなの信じない。
This can't be happening. Well, yeah, that's because it wasn't happening. It'd just been a delusion featuring the worst scenario I could think of. But reality wasn't too far off. Nanami still hadn't picked up, and the sound of someone's ringtone continued to echo throughout the room. The melody was a happy-go-lucky one, something that was in a harsh contrast to my current state of mind. A sense of dread within me was growing. There was no getting around it. Nanami's phone was in this room. I couldn't think of any other explanation. I couldn't avert my eyes from reality anymore. P.S. Before I forget, did you get my present? This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. Didn't matter how much sense it made. It just couldn't be true. I slowly lowered the hand holding my phone. I couldn't even blink. My throat was dry as a desert. Even still, I searched for the source of the sound. This time, I slowly, ever so slowly, examined each and every object scattered throughout the room. I hated myself more than ever for not cleaning my room. If only I was more organized, I could have spotted where it was coming from immediately. Where the hell was it coming from? Oh! That box. What's in the box? The song was coming from inside of it. It was the size of about 2 eroge cases. At first I thought it was something I'd bought online, but there was nothing printed on it. There wasn't a shipping label either. It was sealed with duct tape. Had this large box always been here? Had it fallen from the bed during the earthquake?
Yeah.
No. It couldn't have. I'd never seen it before. If it was something I'd bought online, I would have opened it straight away. If it was something I had sold and was shipping it to someone else, I'd send it off the moment I'd sealed it up. For a second, I considered that maybe Nanami had dropped it off, but I couldn't remember her bringing in a cardboard box of this size. Which could only mean during the hour I'd been at school, someone had entered my base. I have a present for you. I hope it pleases you. My heart was beating out of my chest. In a panic, I went to check the lock on my door. chill ran down my spine. Earlier in the day, when I'd wandered outside my base, I didn't remember locking the door. And I couldn't blame myself. At the time, I'd been suffering from a stabbing headache, and I was really dizzy. When I'd come back from school an hour later, I hadn't locked the door then either. Anyone could have easily gotten in. Was it Shogun? Had Shogun really broken in? I looked at the box again. The song was still playing. Nanami's phone was in there. I nervously lifted the cardboard box. It was heavy. With how heavy it was, there was no way it was just a phone inside. It weighed about the same as 500 milliliters of soda. I was hesitant to open it. I had a very bad feeling about this. I don't want to open it. But there was nothing else I could do. I had to open it. I was too worried about Nanami. She was a total brat, but at the end of the day, she was still my little sister. Nanami's phone was in the box. In other words, someone had taken her phone from her. Now then, let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. That had been in Shogun's email. I looked at the clock. It was already past 7:30 p.m. Nanami might be in danger. I had no choice but to open it. My heart refused to stop pounding. Large drops of sweat began trickling down my forehead. With a moan, I wiped away the sweat with the back of my hand, and then I slowly tore off the shoddily applied duct tape. Please, no. Mumbling that like a prayer, I opened the box. Inside was a lump of aluminum foil, packed carefully with cushioning material. I peeked fearfully inside the box, but the phone was nowhere to be seen. The song was coming from inside the foil? Sweat got in my eyes, and it stung. Before I knew it, my entire body had gotten soaked in sweat. No. I can't do this anymore. Why me? Why does it have to be me? I nearly said those tearful complaints aloud. I pleaded with Saratan for comfort, but she didn't say anything. A myriad of delusions swirled within my head, so much so that it felt like it was on the verge of exploding. I couldn't even focus hard enough to have a delusional conversation with Saratan. My mind was racing so fast, I couldn't even think straight. And yet, despite the near shutdown of my brain, the happy-go-lucky melody from the phone kept assaulting me relentlessly. I'm gonna open it. Having made up my mind, I pinched the edges of the aluminum foil with my fingers. Closed my eyes, held my breath, and tore off the aluminum foil in one go. I could hear the song even more clearly than before. I was too afraid to open my eyes. I tried as hard as I could to catch my breath, but to no avail. It was fine. Everything was fine. There was nothing to be afraid of. It was just a harmless prank from Nanami. Just wait. Any second now, Nanami was gonna burst into the room with a big smile on her face, yelling, "Surprise! Haha, I got you." Yeah, I was sure of it. There was no reason to even consider anything else. Once she did that, I'd lay into her like never before. Then I'd never talk to her ever again. Go on, Nanami. Prove me right. I had to open my eyes. I couldn't keep staring at the darkness. Not looking at it was only making things worse. All it did was force me to imagine what horrors might be inside. I couldn't handle any more terrifying delusions. And so, I slowly opened my eyes and saw it. Oh shit. Lying in the foil was a hand. A cleanly severed, slender hand. Grasping that hand was a phone identical to mine. And wrapped around its wrist was...
へえ、かわいいバングルじゃん。
Oh, it's a cute bangle.
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
Okay, then I'll take it off your hands.
お兄、どう？似合う？
Hey, so, what do you think? Does it look good on me? Oh shit. A yellow leather band that had turned crimson. A bangle.
This ここからは少し専門的な話になりますが。
What I'm about to discuss from this moment forward will get rather technical.
君は元医師だろ。患者に説明するように分かりやすく簡潔に話してもらえるとありがたい。
You are a former doctor, are you not? It would be most appreciated if your explanation remained clear and concise, much like you would be with a patient.
努力しましょう。
I will strive to do so.
さて、人間の脳の中にある何億という脳細胞。それらは細い神経の糸を出し合って、それぞれに手をつないでいるような格好をしています。
Now then, within the human brain are hundreds of millions of cells. Each of these cells are linked together by microscopic, slender threads. You may think of these as if a circle of people were clasping hands.
しかし実際には各神経の先端にある手と手の間にはごくわずかな隙間が空いているんですよ。
In actuality, however, positioned at the edge of each nerve lies an extremely narrow space between these sets of aforementioned hands.
脳細胞に情報の電気信号が送り出されると、その神経の手のひらから極小の物質ドーパミンがボールのように飛び出してきます。
When information is sent via electrical signals to the brain cell, microscopic molecules of dopamine are transmitted to the palm of the cell's hand, perhaps akin to a thrown ball.
それは反対側の神経の手のひらにキャッチされ、再度情報の電気信号に変わって、また隣の脳細胞に伝わっていく。
The brain cell on the receiving end then catches these particles, converts the information contained within them back into electrical signals, and repeats the process with its neighboring cells.
脳の構造は簡単に言うとその繰り返しです。
Simply put, the brain is structured around the repetition of this process.
我が社が開発した第2世代 NOA2 はこの部分に干渉することで
The second generation, Noah 2, developed by my company, interferes with this mechanism
人に疑似的な映像を見せることを可能としました。
and allows us to show people artificial images.
ホログラムのようなものか。
Something akin to a hologram?
あるいは幻覚かな。
Or perhaps a hallucination?
幻覚の方が近いでしょう。ですが明確に違う点として、その疑似的映像は確かな存在感があるものとして映るということです。
It would be closer to a hallucination than a hologram. However, the distinct difference between these concepts is that the artificial image possesses weight, a definite presence.
人間の目、視覚というのは実に興味深いものです。
The human eye, our sense of sight is truly most fascinating.
視野は単眼の場合、鼻側60度、耳側100度程度。両眼の重複視野は120度で、周辺視野を含めれば180度から200度もの視界が広がっているんです。
The field of vision of a single eye extends to approximately 60 degrees nasally and 100 degrees temporally. In addition, the overlapping fields of vision for both eyes is 120 degrees, and when including the peripheral vision, it reaches from 180 to 200 degrees.
その一方で、以前ご説明したようなデッドスポットもまた存在する。
And yet, within these impressive measurements, there are, as I previously detailed, dead spots.
脳にとって視覚とは最もつながりの深い部位です。脳はそのおよそ 80% を視神経情報の処理のためだけに使っている。
Sight is, without a doubt, the sense which is the most deeply connected to the brain. Around 80% of the brain's usage is dedicated to the processing of information obtained through the optic nerves.
その点については300人委員会も注目しておる。
The Committee of 300 is paying close attention to these subjects as well.
人間の視覚にはまだまだ謎が多い。
The human sense of sight remains immersed in mystery.
世界中で研究テーマとして上がっているものだけでも1000以上に及ぶからね。
Around the world, even counting only the facets of research that specialize in it, you'll find well over 1,000 topics involving the matter.
アメリカで数年前に発行された行政命令、機密の人体研究に対する保護の強化。
Several years ago, the United States of America produced a memorandum named Strengthened Protections for Human Subjects of Classified Research.
というのは委員会による圧力ですか？
Was that a consequence of the committee's pressuring?
圧力ではない。これは選定だよ。
No, it did not arise from pressure. It was a selection.
300人委員会はどこの馬の骨とも知れん研究者がこの分野に足を踏み入れることを歓迎せん。
The Committee of 300 does not welcome the prospect of some researcher of unknown origin setting foot into this field of study.
当然ながらアメリカだけではなく世界各国にも同様の指示は出ている。
Naturally, those instructions weren't given solely to the United States, but to other countries across the globe as well.
我が国は随分自由のようですね。私のような人間を放置しているぐらいですから。
Our country has quite the freedom in comparison. It does not even hinder the actions of a person such as I.
勘違いしてはいかんな。何のために我々がいると思っている。
Don't be misled. What purpose do you think we're here to serve?
君はすでに選定済みなんだよ。
You have already been selected.
だからこそ君には何よりも成果が求められている。
Thus, your actions are expected to bear more fruits than the commoners.
300人委員会をも出し抜けるような成果というわけですね。
Results that would surpass even the Committee of 300s, you mean?
うかつな口を聞くなと言っておる。
I advise you to avoid such careless speech.
今はまだ我らの真の目的を誰にも悟られてはならない。
For the time being, we mustn't allow anyone to learn of our real objective.
たとえ委員会に対してもね。
Not even the committee.
これは失礼。
Pardon my speaking out of turn.
説明を続けたまえ。
You may resume your explanation.
ノア2が生み出した疑似的映像は視神経パルスに変換して電磁波として照射します。
The artificial images produced by NOAA 2 are converted into optic nerve impulses and radiated as electromagnetic waves.
対象の皮膚や頭蓋骨を貫通して直接ドーパミン受容体、つまり先ほどの説明でいうところの手のひらにキャッチさせるのです。
They penetrate the skin and cranium of the person targeted by them, and are then intercepted by the dopamine receptors, which I previously referred to as the palm of the hand.
そしてデッドスポットへと最終的に落とし込まれる。
And ultimately, the process terminates by inserting the images into the subject's dead spots.
特に GE レートの高いエリアの人々は空中の映像パルス信号を敏感にキャッチします。混乱した脳はその疑似的映像を現実だと判断することになります。
People who reside within areas where the GE rate is high are particularly susceptible to airborne image-based impulse signals. In these instances, their brains, in a confused, more receptive state, will parse artificial images as real.
これが人間の視界の中に無から有を作り出すメカニズムです。
This is the mechanism through which we are able to produce something from nothing in the eyes of the population.
ノア2を用いれば街中のどこを見ても先生の選挙ポスターだらけなどという芸当も容易というわけです。
If I may provide an example, through the use of NOAA 2, it'd be a simple matter to make people see your campaign posters wherever they traveled.
ただし、あくまで人々のバイオリズムが高い状態であることが条件ですが。
However, one prerequisite must be fulfilled. The people's biorhythms must be in a high state.
幻覚によって意志を誘導するか。沈黙の兵器とシステムは同じというわけだね。
Inducing will through illusions is a mechanism quite comparable to a silent weapon.
条件さえ満たせば対象の見ている世界を自在に書き換えることができる。
As long as the requirements are met, one may transform the world perceived by the subject as they see fit.
それはギガロマニアックスと同等の力ということか。
Does that mean its power equals that of a gigalomaniacs?
その通りです。ノア2は機械仕掛けのギガロマニアックスと言ってもいいでしょう。
That is correct. NOAA 2 could very well be described as a mechanical gigalomaniac.
理論値通りに稼働を始めればギガロマニアックスたちと同等、いや近い将来それ以上の能力を再現できるようになります。
If it begins operating according to theoretical values, it will soon be able to reproduce a power that is equal to, no greater than that of a gigalomaniac.
だが効果の有効範囲はどうなっている？電磁波は垂れ流しなのかね？
But what of its practical range of effect? Wouldn't the electromagnetic waves leak into the surrounding area?
それでは汎用性という点がおろそかになる。
If so, that foregoes any hope of multiplicity of use.
我々は無差別な洗脳を望んでおるわけではない。対象は選定できなければ無意味だぞ。
We have no desire to conduct indiscriminate brainwashing. Subjects are meaningless if they cannot be precisely selected.
ご心配なく。そのために機能因子を用意してあります。
Worry not. A certain factor has been implemented for that very purpose.
モニターをご覧ください。
If I may direct your attention toward the monitor.
なんだこの小汚い連中は。
What is with these low-life scum?
我が社ではポーターと呼んでいます。
Within my company, they are what we call porters.
言い換えれば マインドコントロールのための部隊といったところでしょうか。
More precisely, one could perhaps refer to them as mind control units.
彼らが背負っているリュックの中にはノア2のパルス波を送受信するためのポートが入っています。
Within the rucksacks they carry are ports, devices designed to serve as transceivers for the impulses originating from NOAA 2. Oh, so that's what the dude in the park was.
ポートは信号を受け取るとリモートで周囲へと放出するわけです。
These ports receive the signals, then emit them remotely out into the surrounding region.
歩く端末というわけか。それならば有効範囲の制限などない等しいな。
Portable terminals, in some. Through them, restrictions on the effective range of effect are eliminated.
限定的使用も問題ないことになるね。
Operating it in a limited fashion becomes a non-issue as well.
状況は理解した。貴様は引き続き計画を続行したまえ。
I understand what you are proposing. You may continue proceeding with your plan.
ただし、300人委員会に悟られるような言動はくれぐれも慎むように。
However, please refrain from taking any action that could alert the Committee of 300.
あとは何人犠牲を出そうと構わん。
Aside from that, I care not how many victims must be sacrificed.
ご理解いただきありがとうございます。
I am deeply grateful for your understanding.
それでは、ポーターとして使える人材を提供していただきたいです。
With that, I would like to request that you provide me with personnel suitable to serve as porters.
手配しよ
う。We will make the arrangements.
それと引き続き、先生方にはメディアのコントロールをお願いいたします。
As well as that, it would be most appreciated if you gentlemen could maintain control over the media.
すべては我ら3人の目指す理想のため。
All is for the sake of we three's long-sought ideal. Taki.
ねえ、タッキー。
Hey, Taki.
聞こえてるっしょ？
Can you hear me?
聞こえてるよ、セーラタン。
Yeah, I can hear you, Saratan.
あのさ、もうこのゲーム終わりにしようよ。
So, I've been thinking, we should just quit the game.
ゲーム？
Game?
ナナミッチはタッキーの大事な妹だってのはわかるけど、きっともう手遅れだよ。
I know that Nanamichi is your precious little sis, but it's probably already too late.
そんなこと。
It can't be too late.
そんなことないよ。
It can't be.
だって腕を切り落とされちゃったらさ、普通出血多量で死んじゃうっしょ？ゲームだったら違うかもだけど。
I mean, when you get your arm lopped off, you usually bleed to death from it. Might be different if we were in a game, though.
なんでナナミが？
Why? Why Nanami?
もうさ、ゲームオーバーなんだよ。
I'm sure this is already game over.
早くゲームをやめないと、もっとたくさん人が死んじゃう。
If you don't quit the game fast, loads of people will die.
でもセーラタンだって悪いやつと戦ってるじゃないか。
But Sierra-tan, you always beat up the bad guys.
だって私は
That's 'cause
アニメだもん。
I'm from an anime. I forcefully shoved Sierra-tan's figure inside the inner pocket of my uniform.
助けなきゃ。僕が。
I have to save her. I had brought Sierra-tan as good luck charm. In a normal situation, I would never get caught dead carrying around a figure, because it could get damaged, obviously. Destroying your precious waifu was the most horrible thing an otaku could do. But right now, I couldn't bring myself to abide by my usual policies. I needed the emotional support above all else. And on top of that, I might not live to see another day anyway. I took one last glance at Sierra-tan. Her head was sticking out of my pocket, and by doing so, I managed to hold back the tears that were on the verge of flowing out. Suddenly, someone bumped into me from behind, making me stumble. I turned around to see some Deku staring at me with an annoyed look, and yet, much to my surprise, he didn't say anything. He simply vanished into the crowd. I looked around. I was at Scramble Crossing. The crowd was so huge, it was hard to believe it was 9 p.m. on a weekday, not to mention the very same day an earthquake had killed 100 people. I bet that dude was one of those porters. I felt like I was suffocating waiting for that pedestrian signal. People were surrounding me from every direction. And for some reason I wasn't aware of, the media was flooding in too. People with huge TV cameras were forcing themselves onto the road, halting traffic. The flashes coming from them every couple seconds nearly blinded me. A group of people who were likely reporters were giving passionate speeches to their respective cameras. A few policemen were attempting to shoo away the mass media and pedestrians standing in the road, but gaining back control of the situation seemed pretty much impossible. It was like a paradise for people without cars. Were they holding some kind of event? Why this late? Why today? Considering 100 people had died, that was definitely in bad taste. Didn't they have any kind of respect? And if there was an event, it was crazy that even the mass media was joining in on an insanity. Japan was over. Nah, not that it mattered to me.
助けなきゃ。僕が助けなきゃ。
I have to save her. I have to save her. The place Shogun had told me to go was O-Front, a building which sat right in front of Scramble Crossing. The one with the Tatsuya and Star bricks located inside it. I really didn't want to come alone, but I couldn't get in touch with Remy no matter how many times I tried. And the police were probably still mistaking me for the new gen culprit, so I couldn't go to them. But the time Shogun had set was getting closer and closer. I was getting too worried about Nanami to stay at home, so I had no choice but to go there while I was holding on to Sierra-tan. I carved a path through the sea of people and somehow managed to get inside O-Front. Unfortunately for me, it was pretty crowded inside too, but I didn't even have the strength to get upset about it. The only thing on my mind were my prayers for Nanami's safety. I took the escalator that led to upper floors. Using one of the windows inside the Star bricks, I was able to look down towards Scramble Crossing. Now that I was looking at it from above, it was even more crowded than I thought. And they weren't just standing there either. Some were waving, some were jumping, and some were doing both. Countless dark heads bobbing up and down. It was even more blinding now than when I was down there. It felt like all the lights were pointed at me. With each new floor the escalator brought me to, my heartbeat got faster and faster. I took my phone out to check the time. There was 1 minute left before 9 p.m., the time he'd set. The thought of Shogun killing Nanami out of anger It terrified me so much that I started sprinting up the steps of the escalator, pushing aside anyone in my way. I changed to an elevator to access the top floor. I didn't know how to get to the rooftop after that, but as I wandered around, I spotted an emergency staircase. No one stopped me as I shot through it, and I successfully made my way to the rooftop. A strong wind was blowing. Considering it was the end of October, it was weirdly lukewarm outside. It took a minute, but I soon realized it wasn't a natural breeze, but one blown by the outdoor AC unit. I buttoned the front of my shirt of my uniform so Sierra-tan wouldn't fall out. Thanks bunches, you big dum-dum.
どういたしまして。
You're welcome. I felt a slight sense of relief when I heard Sierra-tan's voice in my head. Sierra-tan was with me, so there was nothing to be afraid of. I desperately tried to convince myself of that. Before that moment, I had yet to realize how dark it was. The only source of light was from the back of the lit O-front sign. Ironically, the neon lights from the surrounding buildings were too bright for me to see anything. If someone was hiding in the shadows, I would have been incapable of seeing them. And then you hear the wheelchair. Oh shit, you're late. My heartbeat, which had started to finally calm down, skyrocketed once again after hearing those words break the silence. I looked all around me, but I was unable to figure out what direction the voice had come from. And then I heard a sound, a squeaking sound that I'd heard several times before. This time, I deliberately focused my gaze into the rampant darkness. There, I spotted the glow, the backlit outline of a wheelchair's wheels.
Huh?
Shogun.
ようこそ、Takumi-kun.
Welcome, Takumi-kun. He was talking to me like he knew me, like we were friends. It felt so wrong. Goosebumps sprang up on my skin. I didn't want to talk to him. I was too scared. I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. Okay, then let's hightail it out of here. At this rate, Taki, you're gonna get killed. But Nanami was...
君はすごく勇気のある人だ。ちゃんと一人で来てくれるとは。
You really are a brave guy. You came here alone, just like I told you to.
ありがとう。と言っておくよ。
You've definitely got my thanks there. Wait a minute. Something was off about him. He was different from before. Yeah, his voice. Something was off about his voice.
その声。
That voice.
声なんて。
A voice is.
ただの空気の振動でしかないよ。
Just vibrations moving through the air.
どう聞こえるか、その場の条件によって変わる。
The way it sounds depends on the conditions around it.
そうだろ?
Aren't I correct? What was going on? His voice kept changing. Was he using some kind of voice changer? Did he want to hide who he was by disguising his voice? Why now, then? Why hadn't he before? That aside, though, I wasn't following what he was saying. Taki, don't let him confuse you. Don't let your guard down. No trust in anything anyone says. You're right. You're completely right, Sierra-tan. Saritan was always spoke nothing but the truth. I tightly squeezed Saritan's body through my clothes.
Nanami wa doko?
Where's Nanami? It felt like my heart was about to burst from fear. Even still, I desperately forced out my voice. I thought stuff like this only happened in TV and video games.
Nanami wa mou shinda no?
Is Nanami already dead? Nope.
ダウト。だって手首ちょん切られちゃったんだよ。
Yeah, no. He chopped off her whole hand. Don't you remember?
もし生きてるにしても、もうすぐ出血多量で死んじゃうのは変わんないよ。
Even if she was alive, it wouldn't change the fact that she'd be about to bleed to death. Tears began to flow. Nanami's sulking face appeared in my mind. Honestly, she was a brat, a really annoying one. And yet, despite that, I was so sad. Sad enough for tears to flow.
ナナミは僕の妹なんだ。僕の大切な。
Nanami is my little sister. My precious little.
なんで殺したんだ。ひどいよ。
Why did you kill her? That's horrible.
死んだと思う。
Do you think she's dead?
もしかしたら君の家に送ったあの手首は別人のものかもしれないよ。
Did you ever consider that the hand I sent you to your place was someone else's? Huh?
バングルと携帯はナナミちゃんのものだとしても手首そのものは別人のものかもしれないっていうこと。
What I'm saying is, even though the phone and the bangle are Nanami-chan's, the hand may belong to someone else. Nanami was alive?
信じちゃダメだってば。
I told you not to trust him. Just don't listen.
君が見事クエストをクリアしたらナナミちゃんは返すよ。
If you successfully complete the quest, I'll return Nanami-chan to you. No questions asked.
生きているナナミちゃんをね。
Alive, of course. Quest. Shogun had used that word again. Did he want me to think of this as like a game? But the real me wasn't a hero. He wasn't anything like one.
でももしクリアできなかった場合、ナナミちゃんは帰ってこない。
However, if you aren't able to complete it, Nanami-chan won't be coming back. Suddenly, Shogun's voice became cold as ice. Getting scared of some old guy like this was pathetic, but this man wasn't normal. This man was the Nugent culprit.
だから僕を失望させないようやり遂げてほしい。
I'm sure I don't need to explain what'll happen if you disappoint me. So don't let me down now.
君ならできるよ。
You can do it.
なんで僕なの？
Why me?
僕じゃなくても、僕なんかじゃなくてもいいじゃないか。
Can't you pick someone else?
君でなくちゃダメ。
It has to be you.
だからなんで？
But why?
君は選ばれた人間だから。
You were the chosen one. I was the chosen one?
勘違いしちゃダメだよ、タッキー。
Don't get the wrong idea, Taki.
あいつの言う選ばれたってのは次の犠牲者として選ばれたって意味なんだから。
When he says chosen, he's talking about how you're the next victim he chose. The tragic end of all the New Gen victims flashed through my mind. sending shivers down my spine.
君は今日の昼間のことをもちろん覚えているよね。
Don't you remember what happened at noon today? I'm sure you do.
昼間
At noon?
学校で君は岸本綾瀬を助けた。
At school, you saved Kishimoto Ayase. Shogun had also mentioned Ayase's attempt in an email. He must have been observing the whole debacle from somewhere. Or maybe he had been mind controlling Ayase. Maybe he was the reason she tried to kill herself.
あの花壇のおかげで岸本綾瀬は一命を取り留めた。そうでしょう。
Thanks to that flower bed, Kishimoto Ayase survived. Do I have that right? Shogun knew about my power. Back at school, no one had even questioned the existence of the flower bed. The only one that had was Sena. Then she'd gone on to accuse me.
お前が妄想したんだろ。
You had a delusion of it, didn't you?
タッキー、将軍の言うことは全力で否定して。
Taki, deny everything Shogun's saying to you. Go on, give it everything you've got. Right. Maybe the entire reason why Shogun was following me around. Why was he trying to kill me? It was because I had powers? If I claimed that I didn't have any powers, maybe he'd let me off the hook.
僕にはそんな力ない。
I don't have any powers.
力って何のこと？僕はそんな言葉は一言も使っていないが。
Powers? I don't recall saying anything about powers. Shit.
タッキーには力なんてないよ。ただの肝オタなんだよ。タッキーにヒーローの素質なんてないんさ。私にハーハーしてるだけの無害の引きこもり予備軍。そうっしょ？
You don't have any powers, Taki. You're just an otaku freak. You don't have what it takes to be a hero. You're just a harmless shut-in that likes to fap over me all the time. Ain't that right? Yeah. The idea that I had actual real-life powers was nothing more than chuny bullshit I dreamt up. I'd almost been convinced by what Sena and Yasi had told me. But those two were raging mental cases. They weren't right in the head. And I wouldn't be much better if I actually just believed them without a second thought. Even Remy had said it was a delusion. Would you mind explaining what you meant by that? And I'd like to hear about that flower bed too.
僕がやったっていう証拠はあるの？
Do you have any proof that I did it?
花壇を何もないところから出現させるなんて、そんなの僕には無理。
That's ridiculous. I could never make a flower bed appear out of thin air like that.
花壇が何もないところから出現したんだ。
So the flower bed appeared out of thin air. Hmm?
他の人は誰もが最初からそこに花壇があったって話していたけど。
But everyone I spoke to said that there's always been a flower bed there.
君だけは花壇は最初はそこになかったってそう認識しているわけだ。
You're the only one that says the flower bed wasn't there from the get-go. No one else perceives that in the same way you do. No. I dug my grave even deeper. What kind of monster was this guy? When he'd mentioned that he'd talked to everyone, did he mean he'd physically gone to my school and talked to the people there?
僕が力なんてない。自分でも一体どうやったのか。
I don't have any powers. I don't even know how the hell I did it.
でも使えた。君が妄想したことが現実になった。
And yet, you did. Your delusion became reality.
惑わされないで。
Don't let him fool you.
タッキー、本当に力なんてあると思う？
Taki, do you really think you have some silly old powers?
そんなのアニメの世界じゃん。
This ain't some anime world.
タッキーがいるのは現実なんだよ。
You live in reality, you dolt.
ただのことも、アヤセッチが2人に分裂したことも、それらが現実だったって証明できる？
Can you prove that the flower bed and the two Ayasichis were real?
無理っしょ？
You can't, can you?
分裂したアヤセッチの体に触った？
Did you touch one of the Ayasichi when she split herself in two? No.
ただの幻かも。
So it was probably an illusion, righto?
そもそもタッキーはあの時、警察とかユアッチに追われて動転してたし。
You were probably just scared of being chased by Yoichi and the police, so you started seeing weird stuff. Then, what about the flower bed?
同じだよ。
It's the same thingy.
花壇は最初からそこにあった。
The flower bed was there from the start.
タッキーはリミッチを探してあそこへ行った時、頭が痛くてフラフラしてた。
You were all dizzy when you went there to try to find Rimichi.
アヤセッチが落ちるまでにはっきりとそこに花壇があることを確認した？
And you only checked if the flower bed was there after Ayasichi fell, right?
みんな誰一人として花壇が出現したことを疑問に思ってないってことはさ。
If no one's questioning the flower bed appearing out of thin air.
逆に言えば最初からそこにあったから疑問に思わないってことっしょ？
It means it was because it was there from the beginning. Ain't that right?
タッキーが間違えてただけなんだよ。
You just made a little boo-boo, Taki.
将軍の言葉に惑わされちゃダメ。
So don't you dare let Shogun fool you with his lies.
花壇は最初からそこにあった。
The flower bed was there from the beginning. I repeated what Sierra-Tan had said.
最初はそこにはなかったって思い込んでたけど、記憶違いだった。
At first, I assumed it wasn't there, but I was wrong.
僕の脳内での妄想だよ。
It was just a delusion inside my head.
だってみんなあそこには花壇があったって言ってるんでしょ。
After all, everyone else said that there was a flower bed there, right?
力とかそういうわけのわからないものじゃなくて。
It wasn't me using powers or anything crazy like that.
ただの思い込みだったんだ。
I just made a mistake. That's all.
いや、君には力がある。
No, I know you have powers.
そうだろ?
And you know it too, don't you?
死にたくない。
I don't want to die.
そうだろ?
And you know it, don't you?
わからない。殺さないで。
I don't know. Please don't kill me.
君は自分の天才的な力についてもっと自覚するべきだよ。
If only you knew how much power you have. You have a gift.
その潜在能力はすごすぎる。
I sense great potential within you.
君なら世界を変えることだってできる。
You have the power to change the world. I wanted to go home. I wanted to hole up inside my base and play ESO forever, glued to a chair for eternity like a disabled person. I wanted to spend my days grinning over Seraton's figure and marathoning Blood Tune on loop. That was all I wished for.
Taki, 早く逃げて。
Taki, you gotta get out of here.
私がずっと一緒にいてあげる。
I promise. I'll stay by your side forever.
私だけがタッキーの味方なの。
I'm the only one who stands up for you.
だから帰ろう。三次元とのつながりなんて断ち切って楽しいことだけして生きよう。
So come on, let's go home already. We'll sever your link to 3D forever and live only for the fun stuff.
さて、前置きはこれぐらいにして、そろそろクエストを始めよう。
Now, that's enough introductions. It's time for your quest to begin.
まずは、下のスクランブル交差点がよく見えるところまで行ってほしい。
First, I want you to move to a spot where you can observe the scramble crossing below.
逃げなきゃ。このままじゃ本当に殺されちゃうよ。
Run away. At this rate, he really is gonna kill you.
聞こえなかった？
Did you not hear me?
スクランブル交差点を見下ろせるところへ移動するんだ。
Move to a spot where you can gaze down at Scramble Crossing. His tone was soft, yet his voice was unbelievably cold. His voice was so sharp, any will I had left to defy him was sapped away. What are you? My legs were shaking, and they refused to move. I wrapped my arms around myself. I had even lost the ability to discern whether I should listen to his order or not.
僕の言うことが聞けない？
Are you defying me?
従ってもらわないと、ナナミちゃんの命は保証できないよ。
If you don't obey me, I can't guarantee Nanami-chan's survival.
どうせもう死んじゃってるよ。タッキーが今から頑張ったってただの無駄死にだよ。
She's already dead anyway. You'll just end up dying for nothing too if you keep trying to save her.
ナナミの声聞かせて。
I want to hear her voice. I managed to squeeze that out, my voice small as could be. However, Shogun rejected my request in an instant.
その必要はないよ。君はもう少し今の状況を考えた方がいい。
That won't be happening. You should really consider the position you're in. I didn't want to think about Nanami's death. I didn't want to imagine her dying. I was too afraid that if I imagined it, it would become real. In the end, I relented. I started walking to a spot where I could look down at Scramble Crossing like Shogun had ordered me to. I could barely see where I was going. If I wasn't careful, I could easily trip and fall. On the side of the rooftop facing Scramble Crossing, a transparent acrylic plate protruded out and up like a wall. It was about 3 stories high. As I approached the wall, I could hear the tumult of the crossing below. A single woman's voice caught my ear. It seemed like it was coming from the Jumbotron mounted on a neighboring building.
アクリル板の壁に一箇所だけ壊れて穴が開いている部分があるだろう。
Do you see the broken part of the acrylic plate wall? Where the hole is? I wiped away the cold sweat on my forehead, and then, moving only my eyes, I looked toward the wall. Just as Shogun had said, there was a hole where a single person could pass through. It had an unnatural shape to it, like it had been smashed open. It had clearly been destroyed by human hands. Of course, there was nothing beyond the hole, only a sheer 8-story drop leading straight down to the concrete below.
そこから顔を出して、下にいるギャラリーに挨拶してあげて。
Take a step out there and greet the spectators below. Huh? What? Had he just said...
もう一度言おうか?
Shall I repeat myself?
その穴から身を乗り出して、下にいる人たちに手を振ってあげてほしい。
I want you to lean out of that hole, then greet the people below. He couldn't mean...
ほら、あいつタッキーを殺す気なんだって。
See? He wants to kill you, Taki. 100%. I gulped. Was this how he had gotten the 5 people to jump off? It really was exactly as Seertan had said. There was no way out of it. I was gonna die. He was gonna make me jump down from here and die.
そんなの嫌だ。
I can't.
拒否すればナナミちゃんは死ぬよ。
If you refuse, Nanami-chan dies.
従えばタッキーは死んじゃうよ。
But if you obey him, you die, Taki. What the hell was I supposed to do? I tried to figure out what was the best course of action, but the only things circling in my mind were the most negative delusions possible. I was unable to think straight. Someone save me.
鬼のバーカ。
You jerk. I could hear Nanami's voice echoing within my panic-stricken ears.
ヒヒバーカ。
Hey, jerk. Memories of Nanami smiling happily resurfaced in my mind. She looked so carefree. It was all my fault. Nanami had nothing to do with any of this, but because of me, she got kidnapped by Shogun, and then he cut off her hand. I'm sorry, Nanami. I'm so sorry. I wiped away my tears, but that didn't stop them. I wiped them once again. Then, with my vision still blurry, I slowly approached the smashed hole. And then, more afraid than I'd been ever before, I looked down. Suddenly, a huge cheer akin to the rumbling of very earth itself came from the people below. A large crowd was gathered in front of the station. The media was there too. They were all there for an event that was about to unfold. Suddenly, a blinding light hit me. I squinted reflexively and looked away. Then, when my eyes landed upon the Jumbotron of the closest building, what I saw was unmistakably me. Huh? Me? On the Jumbotron was my own face. My own face covered in tears and with my mouth hanging half open like an idiot. My back was hunched too. For a split second, I thought I was hallucinating. A chill ran through me as I thought that someone was secretly recording me from somewhere. I then considered if what was being projected there was actually images taken from my thoughts by Shogun. But after exhausting every last possible option, I realized that it had to be a live feed of me, right at this very moment, at this very place. And the video playing on the Jumbotron even had a news ticker featuring sensational taglines. Live from Shibuya Station Plaza, the amazing Esper Boy finally makes his debut. The ticker commentating on the situation was situated along the bottom of the screen. The amazing Esper Boy, endorsed by the psychic of the century, Yuri Brightman, appears. Don't miss this one. Will he divine the new gen perpetrator's true identity? After reading it, I finally understood. I finally understood what the media and the spectators on the Scramble Crossing below were looking at. It was me. Don't look at me. Why were they fixated on me? Esper Boy. What the hell was that all about? Did any of them have any idea what had happened today? We'd gotten hit by a damn earthquake, a seismic intensity 5.1. Over 100 fucking people had died. We're gonna go positive. So why were each and every one of them, why were they waiting there just to see an otaku freak like me make an ass of himself? Shogun. It was most likely him who had brought them here. They were all under his mind control. All of them were expecting me to jump off from here and die. An overwhelming surge of negative emotions struck me. Tell me, was anyone on my side? Taku! Suddenly, among a clamor, I heard a voice calling my name. Taku! A voice all too familiar. A voice I knew. A voice that belonged to the one and only person on my side. It wasn't an illusion. And I wasn't just hearing things either. It was Rimi. Rimi was calling me from somewhere. Where? Where was she? I searched desperately for her. But there were too many people. It was impossible to identify a single person among all of them, especially from this height. Struck by despair, I hung my head in regret. Inevitably, as a consequence of this, I ended up looking directly below me. And there, I saw the figure of a girl looking up at me, waving both hands. Taku!
Rimi!
Rimi. There she was. She had come to save me. I'm coming to save you. Don't move an inch. She kinda sounds like the Shogun voice. Happy as could be, and realizing that I'd been saved, I nodded over and over again. My vision was blurred by tears of joy. I quickly wiped them away. I didn't want to lose sight of Rimi for even a single second. However, I looked again toward the spot Rimi was waving from and saw that something was wrong. For some reason, the crowd around Rimi started surrounding her, with Rimi in its center. A clear circle of dark heads began to form. They moved in closer and closer to her. And eventually, who knows how many Deekuns reached toward Rimi and began to jostle her. Hating what was being done to her, she tried to break free from the man-made enclosure, but due to the sheer number of people surrounding her, she couldn't even take one step. It was as if she was standing right in the middle of the morning train, a claustrophobic nightmare packed to the brim with people heading to work. Stop. Get your hands off her. I could faintly hear the sound of her screams. The number of people surrounding Rimi was gradually increasing, as was the intensity of their behavior. As they pushed her around, they pulled at her clothes, and eventually her jacket was stripped away. Stop it. This isn't Sumoroge. Stop it. Get out of there, Rimi. Get out of there and come save me, quick. My prayers were left unanswered. The crowd rushing toward Rimi was still getting bigger and bigger, and her lone resistance wasn't enough to hold them back. Countless men tore off her clothes, pulled her hair, and dragged her onto the road. Taku, help me. No! She disappeared into the sea of people, and I lost sight of her. Like hyenas devouring a dead animal's flesh, more and more Decunes rushed in for a taste, their bodies stirring around where Remy had just disappeared. Oh god, they're going to rip her. They're going to rip me. The Decunes had been brought here, who were being mind controlled by Shogun. They were going to ruin her, defile her with their filthy hands. And after that, after they were done with her, she would meet a cruel, merciless end at their hands. Tears started to flow. I bit my lip hard. I wasn't crying simply out of sorrow and anger over what was happening to Remy. I was crying because of the sheer terror I felt once I realized every single person there was my enemy. There was nowhere to run anymore. I was trapped.
Yada.
No. I don't want to die. I was scared, this close to pissing myself. I had never felt so close to death before. It felt like my consciousness was drifting away. And now, I was like a child throwing a tantrum. Please, I don't want to go. I started to cry. I hoped that by doing so, Shogun would let me go. I hoped that by doing so, the crowd below would maybe feel sympathy for me and come save me. I hoped that by doing so, the police would realize that I wasn't the culprit, just an innocent otaku freak, and then they would come save me. I hoped that by doing so, my parents would be watching TV at home would come and take my place. Oh my gosh. I hoped that by doing so, Remy would come rushing in to save me. Oh my god. I hoped that by doing so, I would suddenly wake up and realize that it was all a dream. Wait, is there a sword right there? With this myriad of hopes in my mind, I shook my head desperately, and then I cried out my sole wish. I don't want to die. And yet, if you take one more step back, then Nami-chan dies. Shogun's tone hadn't changed at all from before. You're already standing on the stage. This is the perfect place for your awakening, don't you think? Everyone who's gathered here is waiting for you. If you disappoint them, they may turn into an angry mob and chase after you. When he said that, I froze, unable to take a step back, nor look behind me. Quit your worrying. He's just trying to scare you. Nanamichi's already dead, Taki. Running away right now won't make you a bad person, I promise. Even if that was true, I want you to focus on the scenery standing before you. Shogun's voice was very calm, which somehow only made him all the more intimidating. I couldn't even find it in me to say anything back. There's only one task you have to do. No, I can't jump. I'll die.
誰もそんなことは言っていないよ。
No one said anything about doing that. Huh? Oh, was I wrong? Then, did that mean I didn't have to die?
君にはそこから一歩も動かずに
Without moving an inch from that spot.
ディソードを見つけてもらう。
I want you to find your D-sword for me. Find my D-sword? How? I've been searching for it as hard as I could for a long time, but I've never even gotten close. It was completely absurd to think I could suddenly find it here just because he had ordered me to.
ディソードはいわば妄想の剣。
A D-sword can be referred to as a delusionary sword.
それだけ言えばわかるだろう。
Do you understand that much? No.
騙されちゃダメだよタッキー。ディソードなんて実在しないって。妄想が実際にあるわけないっしょ。
Don't let him fool you, Taki. D-swords aren't real. A delusion becoming reality is just plain stupid.
見つかるわけないよ。
I'll never find one.
君はこれまでに剣を持った人間と何度か接触した。
Before you came here today, you'd already run into several others who have swords.
そうだね。
Isn't that right?
その人物から聞いているはず。ディソードをどうやって手に入れた？
Surely they told you how to get your hands on one.
よく思い出した。
Remember what they said?
この剣命運を握る。
This sword is that which bends fate to its will.
この剣は嘆きを収束させた。
This sword is that which converges all sorrows.
この剣は超越した場所に干渉するためのもの。
This sword is that which interferes with the transcendental place.
異空間無料な
It is akin to another space.
同一次元上にあるもう一つの可能性。
Another possibility within the same dimension.
あるいは妄想。
Or perhaps a delusion.
言い方にあまり意味がない。
Stating it that way does not provide much in the way of meaning.
唯一確かなの。
The sole thing we can know for certain, however,
この剣もその領域に存在しているということ。
is that that sword exists within that region.
いつの間にかそこにあっ
It was there before I knew it.
た。気づかなかったわ最初は。
At first, I did not perceive it.
でもちょっとだけ見方を変えたら分かった。
But when I ever so slightly altered my perspective, it all became clear.
もしかして匠にももう見えているのかも。
Perhaps it is already visible to you, Takumi.
見ている。
You simply are not seeing it.
世界を疑い仕組みを知る。
Doubt the world. Study its mechanisms.
お前の見ている景色本物か。
Is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real?
妄想現実にすることが可能だ。
It's possible to turn delusions into reality.
本当じゃないものが景色に紛れ込む。
Objects that aren't real blend into the scenery around us.
つまりエラーを現実として認識させる。
In other words, it allows errors to be perceived as real.
そうだ。
That's right.
すでに多くのヒントが提示されているよ。
You already have a number of hints.
君にはもう見えているはず。
It should already be visible to you. Ah, so that is it.
君の眼下に広がっているその景色の中に。
Within the scenery that stretches right before your very eyes. So, what he was saying was, Shogun was hiding a D-sword somewhere in the scenery I was looking at, and I just had to find it.
見つけたら許してくれるの？
If I find it, will you let me go?
見つけるだけじゃクエストクリアにはならない。
Finding it isn't the only thing you have to do to complete the quest.
実際に剣を手に入れる。
You need to actually grasp the sword.
その場から一歩も動いちゃならないっていうルールを破らないようにしてね。
Just make sure that you follow the rules. You can't move a single inch from that spot. There was no way I could do that. If I couldn't move from here, how was I supposed to grasp that fucking sword? What the hell did he even want me to do?
だからあいつは無理難題を突きつけておいて結局タッキーを殺したいだけなんだって。
I'm telling you, he asked for the impossible because he wants you dead as a doornail, Taki.
それができないなら、ナナミちゃんの命はない。
If you're unable to do that, Nanami-chan's life will be forfeit.
逃げようタッキー、お家に帰ろう。
Let's run on home, okay, Taki? But he just said that if I move one step from here, Nanami will die.
だからナナミッチはどうせ助からないってば。
I've told you 1,000 times. Nanami-chi's already gone. But he said that I could save her.
あいつの言葉を見るの？嘘ついてるかもしれないよ。
Are you really believing what he's saying? What if he's lying? I strained my eyes. The bright lights from below made it hard to see much of the scenery at all. The farther away it was, the harder it was to see. I was trying as hard as I could to look around. But the scenery I could see from here wasn't all that vast. Most of it was hidden behind buildings. But I had to find my sword.
無理だよ。
It just ain't possible. What the hell was I supposed to do? I thought about what Ayase and Sina had said once more.
でもちょっとだけ見方を変えたら分かった。
But when I ever so slightly altered my perspective, it all became clear.
本当じゃないものが景色に紛れ込む。
Objects that aren't real blend into the scenery around us. And when I thought about that, for some reason, I recalled the patterning of the ceiling in my parents' house. Back when I was a kid, I remembered having random thoughts about it before I'd gone to sleep. To me, the grain of wood on the ceiling had looked somewhat like a face. And once I had seen it that way, I could no longer see it as anything else.
Hi, 目の錯覚。そんな木目どこにでもいっぱいあるよ。
Oh, get real. It's just your eyes playing tricks on you. Optical illusions and all that stuff. There's all sorts of stuff like that with wood. She was right. This didn't really compare to wood patterns, did it?
切り取るんだ。
Cut it free. Shogun murmured. His tone was detached as ever.
剣が見えたなら、そこから切り取る。君にはそれができる。
If you can see the sword, all you have to do is cut it free. I know you can do it.
はーい、意味不明。そいつは適当言ってるだけだよ。
Okay, that's total nonsense. He's just saying random stuff.
妄想は現実にすることが可能だ。
It's possible to turn delusions into reality. Just like that flower bed? Just like when Ayase had divided herself in two? But the last time I tried to materialize its real D-sword, I tried using a delusion on the fake one, but it didn't work. I shook my head once more, then scanned the scenery visible to me from here. I saw a sword. I mean, I do see a sword. Is it the right sword? I distinctively saw a sword. Is that right? Or is there another one somewhere else? It's more like a needle. If I move from here, I can take it. No. I can see the sword from other places than here. No. It's not actually a sword. Wait, is that like a question or a statement? Yes, it's not actually a sword. No? No, it's not a sword, or yes, it's not a sword. Ah, shit. It's not actually a sword. Okay, I'm guessing. I mean, it's all kind of guessing, but I'd seen it. Within the night landscape blurred by my teary eyes, amid the scenery in which light was warped by my welling tears, I'd found a spot that looked just like a sword. Just like what Ayase had said. I hadn't noticed it at first, but when I'd ever so slightly altered my perspective, it was there before I knew it. Even if it had just been a coincidence, I was more than happy with it. The more I thought of it as a sword, the more defined it became, and over time, it was becoming more and more real. It was slowly turning into a definite part of the scenery, and eventually, even its contours became clearly distinguishable. You found it, didn't you? Likely having noticed my change in demeanor, Shogun immediately spoke to me. Now, I want you to reach out your hand and cut the sword free. You don't even have to think very hard about it. You can do this. No, you can't, and you know it. You can't listen to him, Taki. If you do that, you're gonna fall. And if you fall, you'll die. I looked down. I saw the crowd filled with countless people. The ambulance still had yet to arrive, just like back at noon. The response time was far, far too slow. Not that it was surprising. That was just how damaging the earthquake this morning had truly been. I can't cut it free. How could I? Don't let your preconceptions restrict you.
何もできない。
If you think that you can't do it before you even try, you won't be able to.
常識を捨て去ってあるがままを見ればいい。
Throw common sense to the wind and simply see things as they are.
君には力がある。世界はその力に応えてくれる。
Power dwells within you, and the world will respond to that power,
あの花壇みたいに。
just as it did with that flower bed. Could I really do that? If I just reached out, would that sword become mine? If so, then I should at least give it a try. Ayase had said that my D sword would bring me salvation. Maybe those words were referring to exactly what was happening now. I would grasp the sword, complete the quest, bring Nanami home safe and sound, and have Shogun leave me alone forever. And then, I would return to my peaceful life that I'd been living up until now.
そんなに都合よくいくと思う？
Do you really think it'll be that easy?
将軍があっさりタッキーを見逃すって？
Do you really think Shogun will let you go just like that?
だって相手は10人も殺した連続殺人鬼なんだよ。
When the guy's a serial killer who's already slaughtered 10 people? Even Shogun wouldn't make me do the impossible. I could do it. He wouldn't tell me to do it if I wasn't capable of it.
あいつはタッキーを殺したいだけ。
He just wants to kill you, Taki.
忘れたの？集団ダイブの映像。
Did you forget about the group dive video?
将軍は5人の男女を1回も触れることなく転落死させたんだよ。
Shogun's already made 5 folks fall to their death without even touching them. Remember? I wonder if he was trying to make them find swords. I'm sorry, Seratin, but I'm already reaching for my salvation. The crowd below started rumbling. My every move was being monitored by the thousands of people packed in front of the station. And it wasn't just them. I was also being watched by tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people all over Japan watching live on TV. I started feeling nauseous. The extreme pressure imposed by such a large number of people made my heart feel like it could explode at any second. No, just forget about them. If I stayed focused on them, I'd be too nervous to even lift a finger. I needed to focus solely on the sword. Being as careful to maintain my footing as possible, I reached my hand out. I tried to aim directly at the sword, letting my intuition do the rest. I felt nothing. The wind rushed toward me relentlessly. On top of that, the direction it was coming from was inconsistent. 1 second it was blowing at me from the front, the next it pushed me from the side. I clung to the acrylic plate in an attempt to support myself, but it was too slippery to bring me anything more than emotional support. If I let my guard down even slightly, I'd get blown off. Even so, I was still trying desperately to grab the sword, but no matter how hard I tried, I didn't succeed.
できるわけないよ。
I can't do it.
だってあれは本当の剣じゃないんだよ。
Cause that's not a goddamn real sword. Tears welled up once more. My vision blurred, and what had once appeared to be an object similar to a sword began to lose its shape. I quickly wiped my tears away. I had the feeling that once I lost sight of it, it wouldn't appear ever again.
それならもっと手を伸ばせばいい。
In that case, all you need to do is reach out farther. Fuck you. You don't know how this feels. I bit my lip to hold back the tears, leaned forward more than I ever had before, and fished around in the open air with my hand. But I still couldn't grasp the sword. More. If I fell from here. I looked down once again. I was higher than I thought I was. I felt dizzy, so I pulled back and clung to the crypt plate once more. What are you doing? Grab your sword. Quickly now. If you don't, you won't see Nanami-chan for a very long time. I shouldn't have looked down. I couldn't stop shaking. Thought I was going to slip because of it. I was so unbelievably afraid. I can't do it. Please, just let me go. Please, you underestimate my power. I don't plan to cave to some childish tantrum. Grasp your D-sword. If you can't, your sister will die, and you will soon follow. That is all there is to it. Oh God, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I had no choice but to try again. I leaned out through the hole, then extended my arm. I could still see the sword over there. I tried again and again, but of course, nothing happened. It felt like I could reach it, but for some reason, I just couldn't do it. I leaned out even farther. I stretched my hand out as far as I could, reaching out my entire body to try to grasp the sword. I even straightened out my fingertips. And then, I slowly closed my hand. But just like every time before it, I felt nothing. I can't reach it. It was impossible, just like Sierra-tan told me it was. There had never been a way for me to grab the translucent sword. Perspective had made it look normal-sized, but when I actually thought about it, I realized how enormous it actually was. It wasn't a size a human could realistically carry. If you grab that sword, the quest will be complete. But I'll fall. I can't reach it. Oh, I see. Are you willing to let Nanami-chan die? Help, just let me go already. I don't want to die. Think about what happened at noon today. With the powers you have within you, even if you fall, the only thing you'll need to do is create yet another flower bed. You may fall, but you won't die. Are you sure you can do it? Right then, Sierra-tan's snarky whisper reached my ear. Am I sure I can do it? Do what?
タッキーがここから落ちて、下の地面に激突するまでほんの3秒もないよ。
If you fall from here, it'll take you less than 3 seconds to hit the ground.
その間に自分の意志でまた花壇を出現させる。
So, in that time, you'll have to make another flower bed appear using the power of your will.
タッキーがそんなすごいことできる？
Are you sure you can do something so hard, Taki?
今まで一度も自分で意識してその力とかってのを使ったことないっしょ？
You haven't ever used your power on purpose before, ain't I right? That was true. And even if I did have powers, I had no idea how to use them.
ねえ、逃げよう。タッキーはよくやったよ。
So, let's just run away, okay? You done good, Taki.
でもこれ以上は無理。
But anything more is just too much for you. I'm not sure what to do. He's talking about the perspective. But if he has powers, and she's admitting he has powers, apparently. Does the green mean that we are gonna run away? Or does the red? Or does it not matter? I guess we'll go positive. Hope for the best.
死にたくないっしょ。
You don't want to die, right? But Nanami.
タッキーはよくやったよ。
Taki, you did good.
妹を亡くした悲劇の兄として今後もやっていけるって。
Now you can live on as the tragic big brother who lost his little sister. The tragic big brother?
PTSD って言えば何もかも許されるっしょ。
Tell them you have PTSD and they'll let you off the hook no matter what.
正々堂々と引きこもれるんだよ。
You can become the best shut-in ever.
あ、もしかしたらさ、どっかの偽善者が同情してタッキーを養ってくれるかもしんないね。
Oh, then maybe some fake-o goody two-shoes with money to burn will take pity on you and provide you with everything you need.
ブログに適当なこと書けば出版社に目をつけられてベストセラーになっちゃうかも。
If you write whatever's on your mind on a blog, maybe you'll get picked up by a publisher and become a best-selling author.
日本中が泣いたとか白々しいキャッチコピーがつけられて、それに載せられたバカでゆとりな人たちからの感動した、共感したっていう絶賛の嵐。
Just slap a review like the book that made all of Japan cry on the back, and you'll get hit by a storm of rave reviews from naive dumbos who got all invested in it. I was so moved, I've never felt so bad for someone, stuff like that.
それで印税もガッポガッポ。半年後に映画が決定っしょ。
And then the royalties will come flowing in. Then after half a year, they'll make a movie out of it.
すごいよ。ナナミッチをここで見殺しにするだけでタッキーにはバラ色の人生が待ってるんさ。
Doesn't that sound just swell? All you gotta do is let Namichi die here, and you'll be on your way to a life filled with sunshine and roses.
さあ、どっちを選ぶ？
So, which will you choose?
タッキーがここで頑張って、でも死んで全てが無になるか。
Will you stay here giving it your all, only to die and lose everything?
バラ色の人生か。
Or will you shoot for the sunshine and roses?
死にたくない。
I don't want to die.
痛いのは嫌だ。
Don't want to feel pain.
死ぬのは嫌だ。
I don't want to be dead.
消えるのは嫌だ。
I don't want to disappear.
何がどうなろうと。僕は痛くも痒くもない。
Whatever happens to Nami doesn't affect me. I muttered all of that to myself. That was my way of trying to make it sound convincing. The one I should trust. It wasn't Shogun. It was
あ
Sierra-tan.
の剣に見えるだけで剣じゃない。ただの光の反射とか目の錯覚だ。
I should have went with the red. That sword. It only looked like a sword. It wasn't a real one. It was just some weird reflection or optical illusion or something.
そうだよ。さあ、帰ろう。
You got it. Come on. You ready to head home?
帰ったらさ、 私のパンツ見ながらいっぱいエッチなこと想像していいから。
Once we get home, I'll let you look at my panties and fantasize about all sorts of sexy stuff with me.
僕帰る。
Okay, I'll go home.
帰って。セーラタンでハーハーするよ。
I'll go home. And then I'll fatten my heart's content to you, Siratan.
嬉しいな。
Sounds fun.
タッキーのためにエッチなポーズたくさんしてあげるね。
I'll strike tons of dirty poses for you, Taki. No. I slowly withdrew my outstretched hand. That alone made me feel much more at ease. I took Siratan out of my chest pocket and gazed at her smile. As long as I had her forgiveness, I didn't need anything else. I sniffled, sucking up the snot that had been dripping from my nose. I then turned around and started walking towards Shogun.
誰が動いていいと許可した？
Who gave you permission to move from that spot?
クエストはまだクリアしていないぞ。
You still haven't completed the quest.
僕は勇者なんかじゃない。
I'm not a hero. I'm not anything like one.
妹一人救えないようなヘタレな妹だよ。
I'm a weak, pathetic, useless sack of shit. And a taco freak who can't even save his only sister.
僕に期待しないで。
So don't expect anything from me.
僕を見ないで。
Don't look at me.
僕をそっとしておいて。
Just leave me alone.
ではナナミちゃんは殺すことにするよ。
If that's your decision, then I will kill Nanami-chan.
どうせもう死んでる。
Whatever. She's already dead anyway. She was already dead. Nanami had been brutally murdered by Shogun. Everyone would report on it starting tomorrow, treating it as the 6th New Gen incident. It saddened me, but there was nothing I could do about it. Big bro. Big bro. I heard the sound of dripping water. No, it wasn't water. It was blood. Nanami's blood. Dark red blood dripped from the wrist where her hand had been severed.
なんで助けてくれなかったの？
Why didn't you come save me?
鬼。
Big bro.
鬼って
You're
最低。
the worst thing that ever happened to me. I screamed my guts out. How dare you! The world turned crimson. My anger, my sadness, my shame were ripping my head apart. My thoughts were a chaotic mess. Without any rhyme or reason, I charged towards Shogun. I made to grab him within his hiding place in the shadows. But I didn't get the physical response I'd expected. I collapsed along with the wheelchair. I must have hurt my elbow, as pain was shooting through it. Grimacing, I searched for the person who should have been sitting on the wheelchair. At my feet, a head tumbled across the ground. Terrified, I slowly reached my hand out, and what I felt was extremely hard. Rather a freshly severed head. It was very clearly A helmet. Oh, rather than.
これ
What? A pitch black helmet.
ダーススパイダー
The Darth Spider?